Zack with us today. She's been exposing election fraud for a very long time. And boy, does she have an amazing insight on so many things. I saw her on Nino's Corner show today, and I was like, I got to get this woman on right away because she needs to get her word out. So Maria is chairman and founder of NIA, Nations in Action. I highly recommend that you donate because, this is not easy to, go against the deep state because they tear your life apart. And, you've basically been silenced in a lot of different ways. So it's great to get you back out here in the limelight again. Hopefully this works. I saw you on Stu Peters as well. And we'll play a little clip of that if you don't mind. So Maria, thanks for coming on and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thanks, Mike. And thank you for everything you've been doing and exposing, and all of your podcasts and work is, not to mention your history and background, is incredible. I got my start working in the Florida legislature. I went to Florida State, political science, learning about coup d'etats, and a tow missile cost $10,000 at that time. And I'm like, why do I need to know? I'm never going to use the word coup d'etat. And now look at us. I use it for my own country. And so I'm heartbroken. I have been in government affairs for 42 years. I've worked inside and then external. I've worked in the corporate world, and then I've had my own government affairs consulting firm, and I've run campaigns. I ran Newt Gingrich's presidential office in Atlanta. I ran a super PAC in 2016. I've run for office even recently here in Palm Beach County, only, of course, to have the continued, same machines that are rigged. So
no it's kidding. Not. You won again in the GOP. They totally backed you, I guess.
Yes.
And you're in a very, it's conservative. Florida is turned conservative, but you're in Palm Beach, and that's a tough one. So
I wouldn't say it was tough. I would say, it's the voter files. I have a list of 106 ways to steal an election, and nobody's paying attention to all the mechanisms. And I'm a bit of a policy wonk. I've written many bills to help eradicate corruption in government. And one of the things that disturbs me is when you walk through those 106 ways to steal an election, not a lot of people want to talk about that because it's policy, it's wonky, it's just not fun. And so the voter files are completely corrupt. The census was corrupt. Everything was altered. And that is a huge problem. And the president, in my opinion, needs to do a state of emergency, rescind all the machines immediately.
Yeah. And that's disconcerting that you lost in Florida. You would think in Florida there'd be no election fraud at this point, but I think obviously it is. So you went up against a machine and you lost against a machine. So we're seeing that all the way down to county level in every state. There's corruption is still thriving to a great extent. I've had people on my shows, this fire station chief in Colorado, where he saw the election fraud because his cameras that were in the fire station, because they voted in his fire station, he backed it up and he saw something that was not right. And he started looking at everything and he saw that they were doing election fraud in his fire station. He brought it up, he got fired. He did he sued them and they were like, you don't have any First Amendment rights. Like what? So, I've had Peter Tickton on, I kind of mentioned that to him. And so he's running against all of that. Yeah, he is amazing gentleman. I've had him on a couple of times. I saw him at the Fraud Fighter in Las Vegas, and he's a great speaker. So he revealed a lot of stuff. And you've talked about this, or some other people talk about how they think that the election coming up, the midterm, they're going to do some shady stuff moving up to that point. But let's go back to the steal in 2020. That's where you're very famous. I remember all this election steal, Gina Haspel, the CIA head at the time, and what was that one place, Serbia, and we had election fraud stemming from Serbia. Of course, you talked about the Italian satellite system, working fraud, and you've done an amazing job of that. Let's jump in there and tell us about that.
Sure. Back in November of 2020, I was receiving information from one set of sources. And once it started to get out that I was working on this, I got bombarded with all different sources. And some of them were intel people, and I've never done work like that. So I've just been in the government affairs dealing with state legislators, and governors, but never in the intel world. So this was a whole new experience for me, and not sure who to trust. So trust no one, right? Except I did trust people. I went to them. I went to a lot of people. I was screaming, deserve the truth. I put open 800 number, dial in and hear what's happening, because it's our country. It's not my country. It's ours. And we have to go fight and get it back. So I opened it up to the world. And so a lot of people, I see them writing in, and one of them that inspired me to call Nina was because someone wrote in and said, what about Maria Zack? I was on this call. I don't even know this woman. And she said, I was on this call because I opened it up to the world. And so thank God she got on. People knew I was in distress of trying to get the information to the president. And I was trying desperately. I ended up getting it to the president. And he immediately had Rudy and others reaching out to me. It wasn't enough to stop it. And there were a lot of mistakes made by a lot of people. And trust me, we've never been here before. That's my biggest fear. I told my team tonight, I said, pray for me, because I don't want to make a mistake, because my mistakes could hurt the country. And I don't want to misspeak. And that I could cause trouble in big ways if I mess up. So I don't fear doing interviews. I love doing them because I love telling everyone the story of what happened. And to your point, back then and in retrospect, you have to trust everyone to a degree. And so I did. And one military guy, God bless him, I'll never forget him. And I wish I had a way to reach out to him, but he warned me that the people that were surrounding me, that were in the election integrity world, were actually undermining me. Yes. And hiding the information. And I was like, wow, they're not getting into heaven very quickly. That's that. I don't think God's looking favorably on their actions. And I was like, okay, what do I do? And he goes, no, you have to go to Mar-a-Lago for the Christmas Eve party. And I had been in hiding. I had been shot at. I had been in car chases. And I've never done anything like this. But thank God my husband was visiting me during one of the most critical weeks where my team was being chased. And I had to rescue them out of Italy and get the rental car returned to the airport, so no one knew that they had actually left the country. And we pulled that off, which was nothing short of a miracle. But
you were doing a total intel operation, and you didn't have the background or training for it. That's incredible. The way you pulled that off is like you said. God is on your side. So thank God for that. So wow.
I'm a people person, and so I know people, and I know how to read people, and I know when someone's playing me. And when you work with politicians, I've known tens of thousands of politicians at very high levels, presidential on down, and foreign leaders. And I get to work with a lot of foreign leaders these days because their countries were stolen too. And I can see this pattern of what's arisen of a lot of weak people, a lot of cowards, that they saw something and refused to say something. Today I was having lunch and was walking into the restaurant, heard a woman screaming, and my heart's like this, and I'm like, the one time I'm not carrying, I'm like, where's my gun? And this man runs across the street and starts heading toward me, and I'm like, oh dear Lord. And so I pull out my phone and I start taking pictures and videoing him, and nice. He turns around and starts running in the other direction. And so I'm like, still trying to make sure the woman's okay, but she's over by the Bank of America and I can't see her. I see the machine, the ATM. So I don't know if it was a robbery or domestic violence. So I called 911, and the officer's taking my story. And next thing you know, he goes, well, maybe it was domestic, but he takes all the information. I said, I've got his picture, everything, and all in black. And he said, hold on a second. We just got 10 calls in about this. And here I was, first call, which I didn't think I'd be. You're in a bank parking lot and like no one's calling. And the people in the restaurant were like, God bless you for seeing something and saying something. And I could tell some of them wouldn't have. And I'm
Yeah.
like, he could have come in here and shot you guys had you not called looking out the window. So I have been a strong proponent of that. You see something, you say something, you do something. And that's where I found myself in 2020, Mike. And it's the moral thing to do. And the people who came to me to help, some of them were actually embedding to try to steal the content, to
Right.
soil the content, and to harm me. And I was shocked to learn when Mary Fanning told people I was CIA. I mean, I kind of laughed because to someone like me, I'm just like an amateur. Like, I wouldn't know. I can't learn a language. I just don't know that I'd ever pass whatever's required to be in the intelligence world. So I I really couldn't believe the number of people who sabotaged this to make sure she actually removed me from Mike Lindell's movie. He interviewed me, but he was so angry because she was telling him lies. And I'm like, I've never told this story before, Mike. I don't know why I've got it on my mind, but it just shows the sabotage that was happening. And I'm getting calls out of Georgia where I'm very well known and everyone's known me so long. They've been to my home. We've hung out forever. You would know if I was CIA when I'm almost 24/7 at home off session.
Yeah.
We're all hanging out, having parties. Like, I'm not working. I had the coolest job. It was only during the legislature, 3 months out of the year. Talk about awesome, you know? So it was quite a, rude awakening to see people lie about me. I have a long track record. I've been all over the internet. I had a prayer bracelet company that I just
Mm,
loved, Adopt a Hero after
beautiful.
9/11. God just kind of called me to do that and it took off. I was on the cover of USA Today. Next thing I know, in 2020, I'm on the cover of newspapers, including the Washington Post. I'm on Rachel Maddow. I'm like the scum of the earth, the worst person on the planet. And so I was like, wow, if they're that good
Yeah.
at getting the highest levels of all the top papers in the world, and I've watched them go to the highest papers in the world to promote bad people, which always sickens me. But to see them come after me personally was great. It sounds funny, but it was great because I started to see their footprint, and then I
Yeah.
started hunting
Location,
them.
all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
let's look at you're so incredibly well informed, and we're gonna break this down. Now this is your X account.
yes.
So we're, as you see, we're live in X right now, and we're live on YouTube. So if for some reason I go down, and you're still on the show, just keep going because I've been sabotaged a few times lately. But
Uh,
here it is, Maria Zack. The president validated it. So President Trump validated your post. He saw the evidence. He shared it. For years, they said it wasn't real. They mocked it. And this is the way they work. They work in conjunction. The press is, part of the deep state, and they have been censoring all of us, you included, obviously. They censored it. They canceled me. Now the truth is breaking through. The Italy election investigation, the extensive interference, the stolen pallets of cash tied to the Iran deal. Now, who might that be? So that is Obama. Maria Zack testified about the stolen 2020 election operation connected to Obama. So this is President Trump saying, posting this, reposting this, when he diverted 400 million from the infamous palace of cash sent to Iran. So we thought, and I thought for a long time that it was, Venezuela that was involved in this, but now we're starting to see Iran is involved in this. And look what we did with the Venezuela, and look at what we're doing now to Iran. Wow, that was a great reveal on Nino's show. So I got that right away. I was like, whoa, tied it all together. Wow, you're amazing, Maria. Absolutely amazing. So in return, Italian officials at Leonardo, this is the military satellites, and they're, as you said, the number 7 top military industrial supplier of arms. So how could someone hack into this? Because that's what they said. to help hack U.S. voting machines. So they did this, flipping votes from Trump to Biden. I think an account of 8 million. That's what Peter Tickton told me. And they were going to do the same thing with Kamala, but they stopped it. Using CIA developed tools like Hammer and Scorecard, along with numerous other methods of fraud and manipulation. China reportedly coordinated the whole operation, providing the tech backbones and bribes to connect to corrupt Americans. CIA oversaw it, and I can tell you, they're having worked in the CIA. I work for the good guy side, but we saw the deep state operators in the CIA. The FBI covered it up, all to install Biden as a puppet. This is a global election fraud cartel, and the real threat against American democracy and the rest of the world. So, what are your comments on this? God, great job on that.
Thank you. It's a global criminal syndicate, and they use intel agencies around the world, individuals within those agencies. So, to your point, I don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. We have a few individuals who have infiltrated into our key places, in the secret spy world, and they have access to all different tools to be able to help them achieve their mission. And so you pay off enough people, you steal enough pallets of cash, and people unfortunately are more godless and more lacking morals that they went along with this, and they have built a network, a syndicate that they use foreign countries, especially poor countries in Africa, to wash money. And these are Americans in addition to people from other countries. And I've done reports on this before, and some of it Stu Peters helped me get out, and I was very grateful for those interviews. And some of them are quite horrifying, honestly. The parties and after parties with the G7, G8, G20 world leaders conferences, where they bring in drugs, little boys, little girls, and they take pictures at the after parties. I've worked a G20 before, and I never did an after party, let alone the after party. And I, thank God, had a shift at 5:30 in the morning, so I was to bed very, very early in the evening, and I was proud of my work, but never did I know behind the scenes that was happening. And I'm so disgusted, Mike. It's so evil and demonic. But then I found out from some of my sources about the trafficking of children, and I'll give you an example into Guatemala, and I'm going to break it here for you.
Yeah, well, you probably know that the CIA is very heavily involved with the State Department. That was Hillary Clinton, causing some problems there during these time frames and so forth. But we had that Suez Canal was blocked by that huge container ship, and I said that they were trafficking children on that too, and that the SEAL teams came in and did some work on that. And I was probably like you, heavily hammered by the mainstream media. So why? Why? And it's just I'm just a guy out here, having an idea and an opinion, but they really hammer me because I believe that was correct. And a lot of people said that was correct too. So this child trafficking that we know that goes on with the container ships is really prevalent. And you've talked about that, and you talked also about how Biden on Nino's show, you said you knew about a container ship that was coming in, and Biden called and said, "Don't check that one." And you knew that it was full of containers full of children too, and it came into New Orleans.
Yeah, and it's heartbreaking that we even allow that in a department, and that's why I'm so disgusted. That one, it's our tax dollars. Two, I knew about USAID and the evil they were doing. And I want to make it kind of maybe simpler for people to understand from a government affairs perspective. It's not just that it's a global criminal syndicate, it's that they embedded people into different layers of government. And that syndicate, the way it works, is like a parallel government, a shadow government. They work in the dark, so shadow government, but it's parallel. So you have the same departments, agencies, and commissions. So they build their plan at the same time as the other plan that's our public view. The private view is the most despicable, evil part of our government. And it's very easy to fix, Mike. Very easy. We have a goodgovernanceguarantee.com website up, audits, affidavits, and transparency. So at the 2024 convention in Milwaukee, my chief strategist and I were there, and we're in a VIP room waiting for Vice President Vance at the time prior to his election. And I said to them, to one of the staff of Elon Musk, we need Elon to help us implement this program. And sure enough, he took it back to Elon. He wrote me, kind of patted me on the head, as I get often from people. I really don't
do that, right? No.
Do that, because I'm coming for you. And so I was like, I got an Irish Italian background. I'm just saying.
What, Maria? No.
Yeah. So I got God. So nothing trumps that. So
if you don't take care of them, then you got somebody else taking care of them. The angels. Yeah.
I feel all good there. And you got St. Michael, I'm sure. So
you do, actually, yeah.
I look at this and I saw how they were moving, and I guess you could say these people, they think they can get away with it. And they do get away with it because there isn't an affidavit program. And when I told Musk's guy, he's like, go ahead, you do it at the state and local level. We'll take federal. Well, what they did was made sure on the affidavit, this is the sheet, and it's a very simple sheet, audits, affidavits, and transparency. And in it, it's a constitutional and fiscal audit. What the hell? He gets a fiscal audit, yes, at USAID, but let's not talk Constitution. Constitution is the rule of law. My sixth great grandfather passed the Declaration of Independence, Colonel Timothy Matlack. He was the one who put Benedict Arnold in prison. I get to do Barack Obama. I'm not saying I'm upstaging him. He did amazing crossing the Delaware in Christmas time in the ice. I don't think I could have survived that. And everyone, struggled. And I look at the work that he did. He lived to almost 100 years old, right at his 100th birthday. And he knew what he was fighting for based on principle, and they used those founding documents. He was the one who read the Declaration the first time in Philadelphia, and a lot of people didn't realize his history. He was being written out because he was complaining, as I get told often as well. So his blood runs through my veins that, they didn't do enough, and they didn't. And it's now proven they didn't. We didn't have the guardrails of the full audit, affidavit, and transparency program. That is what he was trying to explain. He and Thomas Paine were the two Paines in their patootie, I'm sure. So I think it was kind of an interesting thing. And, everyone was celebrating 250. I can't celebrate 250. We didn't make it to 250, Mike. It's just not true. We didn't. Our country was stolen, and we have to go get it back.
Yeah. So this is your website, nationsinAction.org, and I donated to you. I get $250. So I'm kind of like the 250th anniversary. So I challenge other people to donate, because obviously you're very valuable. So we need you, and we're the ones that are keeping you going. So. Let's look at the news. So I looked into your news, and wow, you have incredible amounts of information here. So there is one down in here that I wanted to play a little bit of.
Yeah, people are now talking about MK Ultra. I'm like, where have you guys been?
Yeah,
it's crazy, some of it.
So this is the one where you're with Stu Peters, and this is going to hurt for some people. I've been diming out General Flynn for a while, and I just gave up because people just don't understand. So
they're going to.
They're going to. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I love that you're joining in, because there's other people that along with me, former military officers, very, very high level people, and they've been attacked, and some of them are no longer here, unfortunately. So this is a powerful organization. So some people shy away from exposing it. Not me and not you, obviously. So let's listen in.
Afraid and unstoppable, the 6th day of April 2022. Welcome to the Stu Peters Show. My name is Stu. Well, Maria Zack is the founder.
So is that coming through?
Yep.
Okay, good.
Of Nations in Action. She also spoke at the recent Let's Go Brandon rally that I attended. Maria led an investigation that she says reveals the involvement of Italy in a 2020 plot to steal the election from Donald Trump, a scheme that she dubs Itallygate. According to Maria, the plot to steal the 2020 election was engineered in the Rome embassy by U.S. Foreign Service officers colluding with the Italian defense contractor Leonardo SPA. She says that Barack Obama, the CIA, and former Italian Prime Minister Matteo Renzi were all a part of the plot too. None of that would surprise us. The plot was this: hack U.S. voting machines, send their data to Italy, manipulate the results, and then use Italian military satellites to beam the fake results back to the U.S. to rig the election. Maria sent those claims to Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, and she says that she also gave the evidence to General Flynn as well. What did they do with it? Nothing. Why was that? It'd be good to find out, considering.
So this is part of the blocking force that you're talking about. There's
Yes.
people put in positions that block information of taking down this evil system of corruption. So they're inserted. We see this with governors, and I'll say it, blue states. It is what it is. Now, I like what you say is Democrats, Republicans, independents, we all should work together. Political party, throw it away, because they're all corrupt to a great extent. So in these Democrat states, they have allowed election fraud on a massive, and we can't vote them out because of election fraud. So we want to get rid of election fraud. So we're going to vote them out. Well, they keep staying in there. And if, sometimes they play us and you put a Republican in there, which is basically the same system of corruption and fraud. So you go on to talk a little bit about this. So tell us a little bit about these people that are put in place to sabotage everything.
It was really amazing. A billionaire called me out of the blue and he said, Maria, you need to get to the State Department right away and don't go see, and you will not be seeing, Mike Pompeo. He's on the dark side. And I was like, well, I kind of suspected it, but hearing it from someone else was kind of interesting, and that he was willing to share that. And it was a gift. It helped me a lot to understand the level this was truly at, which is the highest level in the world. And so I met with 5 people, and they go, this is all you can trust. And I'm like, 5 people in the entire State Department? Like, are you kidding me? And they wanted to help rescue Arturo Delia. They said, I'm sorry, this is all we have. And they were scared. They were wishing they were in a skiff, but they said that's bugged too. And this was at a high level. But the people that were embedded there, I noticed a trend of a lot of young people with zero experience put into Trump's first administration. And I kept going, who appointed them? Like, God bless them. They love America, but you're the liaison from the White House to the State Department, and you're 30 years old. And I'm thinking, how much experience do you have to actually have that position? And it was that they kept putting people in places that either they wouldn't know they were part of a corrupt system and that they were helping and aiding and abetting the bad guys. And that's what I started to see, that a lot of the people, it was total sabotage. I have the book, the Fire and Fury book on my desk that Woodward did. Like, he gets in the White House, he gets all these goods from Steve Bannon. Of course he does, right? So I'm seeing this trend and I'm like, wow, this is really amazing. All these people, the kid who worked under Peter Navarro, who came after me and stole Hunter Biden's laptop, according to Jack, was it Dorsey? What was his name? That had Hunter Biden's laptop. He was CIA. He said he handed it to this aide, this little intern, to take into Radcliffe before the January 6th certification so he could stop the certification. And he said that this kid stole the laptop for himself. And for 6 months, he blamed Radcliffe and thought he was a rat. And he goes, then I found out it was the kid who then ended up publishing a book on it and acting like this big hero. Well, he was sabotaging me, releasing the names of some of my witnesses and warning them that coming after them right as I had a police thing happening the next morning. He did it the night before. We got sandbagged left and right.
Yeah, and you talk about how your bank account and all the people that were working with you, all their bank accounts were sabotaged and stopped. Wow,
Yes.
it's
And
crazy.
yeah, I had a 0 credit score. I had all my accounts canceled, my businesses, my husband's, Marjorie, who worked for me. It was like crazy land. And of course, being on the cover of every news publication and just being ripped. And then, being canceled. We had a gazillion views very quickly. And then all of a sudden, everything was turned off. Twitter.
Yeah.
And I went to the guys who got the Twitter files and working with Musk. And I said, hey, can you please work to see what happened to me? Where are the letters that, somebody ordered Twitter to do this? And who really owned it? Did Jack Dorsey actually own it? Who owned Twitter? Just like Facebook. I want Zuckerberg under oath about the ownership of Facebook.
Yeah, CIA. We were all warned in CIA, stay off Facebook because we monitor that. We're like, okay.
Yeah. And DARPA, of course, the infrastructure of the criminal syndicate is to steal all the assets out of government. And that's what they do. And that is the dirty secret. And I'll tell you, the thing that shocked me was the I'll say younger man, adult, who burned himself alive outside of Trump's trial. Do you remember that?
No. There was a few of them that happened during that time frame.
There were 2. There was a military guy at one of them, and then the one right after it was a guy named Max Azzarillo. Well, would it surprise you to learn he was actually working on campaigns and he worked for a Democrat congressman? Like, don't you think that would be news? Max Azzarillo worked for DeFazio. Like, I think that's huge news. He burns himself alive, throwing flyers out, warning people about a system that exists inside the government of stealing elections and doing far worse, and using the universities to cultivate these students for the nefarious activities that they do. And they go and rob pension funds and do a lot of other nefarious activities. And that system needs to be identified and broken.
All right, wow. See, we can go like one sentence here, and then it's like a download from you. It's like, wow, oh my God, you're amazing.
There are rumors that Trump will make Mike Pompeo his running mate if he decides to run in 2024. Also, how does this Italy-gate narrative mesh with all of the other claims for the 2020 election and how it was stolen, from Venezuela to illegally printed paper ballots? Hopefully we can unpack all of that. Maria Zack with Nations in Action joins us now. Maria, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Stu. It's a pleasure to be with you and to let the truth be known, because not many have the courage you have to make that happen, and we're very, very grateful.
You gave your findings, your evidence, to Mike Pompeo and to General Mike Flynn. Is that true?
Actually, I gave it to Mike Flynn for many, many weeks, talking directly to him, talking to Lynn Wood and Sidney Powell. And I can tell you, Mike Flynn called me the day I was flying up, when Lynn Wood's plane was tampered with, was the day I was supposed to be flying in. And Mike told me while I was changing planes in.
So that's interesting. When I remember this, because I was following Lynn Wood at the time. I still do occasionally. And in fact, I actually pulled, I'll pull this up here in a second, but I pulled his site up. He's on Telegram, and he's still, I mean, I don't think a week goes by he doesn't call out Mike Flynn. But when you start down that road, this is when things start to happen.
Yeah.
And I don't think Mike Flynn is driving in and doing this. He's part of a group, and this disclosure, I think, needs to happen. So thank you for doing this. This is amazing. So we need to expose all the people that are involved here.
Yes.
at 8 in the morning to abort that something came up and I needed to not make that connection into Charleston where they were going to pick me up.
So it's safe to say that he didn't ignore your evidence, but that he was concerned for your safety?
No, he actually, quite shockingly, he and Patrick Byrne did everything to prevent us from getting the truth out. And then to explain the Mike Pompeo piece, he was actually asked if he would assist me by a former governor, and he said no. Then I met with State Department personnel who said to me, he cannot be trusted. No, we cannot involve him. Now I know a lot more why that is.
Yes, that's what I want to know. And specifically, individually, was their reasoning the same? Why did General Michael Flynn ignore it? Why did Mike Pompeo ignore it? Why did Patrick Byrne, who's irrelevant and crazy, why did he ignore it?
So it's not that they ignored it. It's far worse than that, far more nefarious, Stu. They actually participated in covering it up and blocking us.
Why?
They made
Wow, that's massive. So let me read.
If you don't mind me jumping in, are you ready for this?
Yeah, go ahead. I'll pull up this other one. Go ahead.
So I came out and explained to the world that I am the FBI witness. I had FBI agents that no one knew I was meeting with in 2020 and 2021. And those individuals sure as heck better be scared, just like this guy. They better be scared because it's all in that file at the FBI, and Kash Patel has it. POTUS has the documents. I've been giving him updates. Flynn is had worked for the guy on the top row, third in, Alexander Nix. And you have to understand, when he worked for him, he failed to report it when he got hired by POTUS, by President Trump in the first administration. And that was what he got caught, that he failed to report. He failed also on Turkey. So he had multiple infractions, violations of the law in what he was doing. And that is significant.
Yeah. So I was in Afghanistan when General Flynn and others came in. And I was like, finally, we're going to start to kick some ass and we're going to get this war over. This is ridiculous. I was working with the CIA at the time. And they came in and they just extended it. It just kept going. I'm like, these guys are corrupt. And then, they had that one guy that was with the Rolling Stone that wrote the book about the generals. And then he had that mysterious crash into a palm tree and the car blew up and he burned alive. So, these guys are you have to be very careful exposing them. And then of course they had the one guy that was from Arizona, had been on the professional football team, that became a Ranger and got shot in the back by his own guys. I think that's probably because he was about to reveal. So these guys are very, very vicious. And
Mike,
and a lot of people unfortunately didn't take that warning. But let me read. Let me get out of here and read what Lynn Wood just had to share. I'm like, wow. So just like you were saying, how does it feel 4 years ago that you're revealing this, and it seems seemingly the same people are still out there causing problems and not arrested, because if you don't arrest a criminal, they're going to do more criminal stuff.
Right. So I think it's been 6 years. It was 2020. It feels like 100 years, I'll tell you. Right? And my patience wears thin, and I don't appreciate cowards. And so, you have children. Many of the people I go to for help, and they're like, oh no, it's scary, or oh, I have children. I'm sorry, you have children. You just screwed them over. You're going to hand them a far worse country if we don't work now. I'm not surprised that Pam Bondi didn't move. Senator Rick Scott told me we're going to get Barack Obama in jail. I supplied, and I'm not government. I can speak and do anything I want. I unmasked a CIA guy moving the pallets of cash for Barack Obama with the Italian prime minister's people and moving it into Italy to pay them off. And I want to also make sure I mention I already knew and supplied the information about Serbia and along with Italy and Venezuela. I knew that in the very beginning and supplied it to Flynn, Sidney, and Patrick. And what did they do? They made sure I was never funded. I have had to pay for lawsuits galore. I have been through the ringer financially. And I don't work for a living. I work to save the country for everybody, because it's not just the country, it's the world that they took. And once they got America down, they've got a free for all. They had Biden 4 years of auto pen. They had the ability to do anything they wanted around the world using USAID and the parallel government. And it is so despicable. And to sit here and think that fellow Americans will keep their mouths shut. That's why I designed the program. That affidavit program, I talked to a former congressman and he said, Maria, if you could do one thing, what would you do? I said, I would do the employee protection affidavit. Every employee at every pay period in government, including any NGOs, which NGOs shouldn't even be getting government taxpayers' money, and the anyone who's under a contract, a business with a contract with the government, has to sign at every payment. Yes, I did see something suspicious or illegal, or no, I didn't. Under penalty of a felony that's commensurate with the item they may have been covering up. So if they will be treated as if they did the crime, not just if they didn't do the crime, that they covered it up at that level. So the penalty is very harsh, but the protections are huge. And so a lot of these employees that were forced in some of these departments, or they didn't really know, we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. We need, psych polys, and we need people to have the affidavit program immediately. And that is what my request is of the President of the United States.
Excellent. So this is what Lynn said. I think this is today. Yeah, this is today. So this is Bobby Pitton. I think he ran for office, and he was a longtime Flynn supporter. I've seen a lot of these people over the years, criticize me, but it is what it is. So he's turned. He's finally figured it out. And he says, Lynn was right about more than many of us were ready to hear years before we were ready to hear it. I agree with Lynn's assessment that Flynn is not to be trusted and is likely to be put on trial for treason. His loyalty to Obama and communism are his true colors. So Lynn responded to that, and he said, out of the blue, I received an email earlier today from Bobby Pitton, with whom I have not spoken in years. Thereafter, I spoke with Bobby by phone to catch up with him in response to his email. I asked Bobby a number of questions, and he was quick to answer them. A prior Mike Flynn loyalist, it was clear from his answers that he is no longer a Flynn fan. So I made my assessment of Flynn public almost 5 years ago. I have been consistent. I did not tell Bobby that I thought Flynn would be likely to be put on trial for treason. Since conversations can sometimes be misinterpreted, I wanted to clear that up. So he didn't say that he saw Flynn, being tried for treason, but I'll say that.
And I will back you on that. Absolutely. Yes. And it's so disturbing, the sycophant mentality, because people watch a podcast and think that, suddenly someone would just be magically a fantastic person without knowing anything. You might as well watch a cartoon, because you're getting as much out of it. I marvel at people who have attacked me about Flynn, about Bannon. I've lived it. I've been in the room with them. So you're calling out Steve Bannon as well. So absolutely. Wow. No, I lived this nightmare, and it's
Trump kicked him out, and Trump has really not dealt with Flynn, although occasionally
he knows, and the intel documents that I supplied them, and the intel documents, and that's part of the problem. Cash has to deal with this, and the system is really deep, really wide, lots of threats coming out of it. And God bless Lynn Wood, because what he endured and what Sidney Powell did. And I'll give you this other tidbit. I'm going to go ahead and let this out because it doesn't matter, because the CIA agents have a ton of stuff. And so, or not CIA, sorry, FBI agents that I had, two great Americans, I might add.
Thank you, because there are good people in the CIA and FBI, but if the people that are in charge are, crushing them, like happened with you, you're about ready to blow this open. And then the Biden administration came in and shut it all down.
Yeah, Jim Erdman, talk about a hero. They made it untenable for him. So it's still not clean. Ratcliffe needs to man up and remember his age, because he's not going to live forever. And that's the number one thing I find with people. They don't realize they don't get to live for eternity. They get a day with our maker, and it's not going to be pleasant. Most people don't get into heaven. And
the reason why I'm laughing is because you said forever, just like my wife does. That's beautiful. Good job.
Funny. Yeah.
Good. So bigger picture, and you've kind of alluded to a little bit, you haven't gone there yet, but I'll help you,
Sure.
is the deep state. And I've known this for a long time. We saw a possible nuclear attack on Hawaii several years ago. And there was evidence that came out later that they were really going to shoot a missile from a submarine that they had, the deep state, that is. And they were going to blame it on North Korea, because everybody was saying, all the press was like, North Korea is going to nuke us. And I was like, no, that's not going to happen. I've been to Korea. That's not going to happen. And so then that situation happened. The people of Hawaii went through some serious trauma, because they were told that a nuclear event was about to happen. And, get under their table or whatever, like we used to hear when we were in preschool, in school, as little kids, they traumatized us.
Yeah. Our daughter was there when it happened.
Wow.
So yeah, no, this was not cool, not cool. Yeah. And that system exists, and it should terrify everyone, that this shadow government, criminal syndicate, because people are scared. They're the ones actually helping harm the system. They're actually giving them the runway to keep going in the wrong direction, and to be able to threaten the good guys trying to clean up government, which is the majority. So we don't cower to bullies. And now I was really shocked in Nino's talk when he said, yeah, I was told that China's got a suitcase nuke, and going to use it. And I was like, oh my gosh. He's been told. Who told him? Just like who told everybody Maria Zack was wrong? Maria Zack didn't know. Maria wasn't aware. Maria was well aware. And now I'm like, they already got to Nino. They got to the CEO of Epoch Times. She came out on stage at a St. Petersburg event I was at maybe 2-3 weeks ago. And she said that they had gotten word of this potential attack by China. And I was like, I already knew this was coming, guys. Here we go. Yeah. Yeah, it's terrifying.
Many of us have been talking about how, there's planes have been going up for the last 5 years or so, looking for nuke sniffers all over America. And that's not normal, right? So very, very good people that are monitoring this are putting out constantly. So there is that threat. When I was in the SEALs and the CIA, I was in the SEALs at the very top at SEAL Team 6, and then I was at CIA at the very top, working with people. We all were always looking for nukes, because we knew there were nukes out there. So who had them? Some random people had them? No, it was the deep state. And these people that are, helping and protecting the deep state, like Michael Flynn and others, Mike Pompeo, we could just go down the list, but they're helping protect them. And there's a serious threat, like you talked on Nino's show. They have said that if you come out with election fraud, we're going to nuke half the United States.
That is what I'm hearing, and I'm frustrated, because we have to keep moving forward and President Trump needs to understand, you don't cower to them. They're going to kill us anyway. So now's the time, move hard and fast, pull the machines, hand count. We all can count. This is not a hard task. We can get a bunch of third graders and still get the count right. And so I think we're at that point where everyone should be manning up and telling the president it's go time. We're not putting up with this criminal syndicate. And when you say deep state, I always think it's the people inside. When I hear deep state, I define it as the people who are the government employees who are doing this. But the criminal syndicate are the billion and trillionaires above that are pulling everyone's string. So the criminal syndicate leadership has these puppets of the deep state actors, if that makes sense. That's how I kind of view it, because honestly, I didn't know any of this and I had to learn as I went. So the thing that also troubled me, the infrastructure when, and Mike Flynn didn't know this, but a very dear friend of mine went into the Flynn campaign. So while he was diverting all the money to himself and Sidney Powell, they were moving and building a state by state presidential campaign. And I called my buddy, I said, so Mark's running a presidential campaign for Flynn. What party is Flynn? He goes, Democrat. And I go, so you guys are Republican helping Mike Flynn run for president. I was not prepared for this, but God gives you nothing. You can handle whatever you're given. And so I was a lunatic calling the family going, we got another threat. And so I got calmer over the years. In the beginning, it was a little tough because I've never done anything like this. And I was afraid if something happened to him, it'd be my fault. And to actually make sure he becomes president and Trump doesn't. And the whole Butler shooting, think about this. Has anyone ever said to you, okay, Jill Biden suddenly has an event at the same time, pulls the Secret Service off. Who was she talking to? The sons and daughters of Italy. Hello.
Wow.
Go, Italy. Like,
Wow.
no mistake.
Big
And
reveal. Wow. Unbelievable.
well, let me take it a step further. I was given tail numbers of an airplane and told that it was actually an active duty military Italian who shot him, who was there. 2 planes were there, and I have those tail numbers, and they're out of Delaware.
Wow. Delaware, of course.
Yeah, you can't track. Yeah, or I couldn't track them. I'm sure someone else could. Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah, I'm breaking lots of
Italians again. Now, Italians are really some serious culprits. I follow these guys that are with this one gentleman, Mr. Slovak, or is a Russian guy that grew up in Donbass and went to the United States, became a military officer, and went back, and now he's reporting in Russia. There was a girls' school that was shot by drones. Drones crashed into it, killed 18 girls and 3 boys. And the drones were Italian made.
Leonardo's?
Probably. I might have this guy on to ask him these questions, and because the Russians are very smart about all this stuff. Putin said that we're ending the vampires. So we're ending the vampire. So President Trump has talked to him several times, and he's withdrawn aid to Ukraine and all kind of interesting things. He was just at NATO, and he's like, well, I'll back you guys if you give me Greenland.
He's something, and Italy's still trying to push more money to NATO to help Ukraine. And some must ask, who does Giorgia Meloni answer to? Because it's not the people of Italy. And I'm disgraced for my dad came, his parents came from Italy and immigrated many hundreds of plus years ago. And so it's just terrifying that your bartender can suddenly be made to be a president. She was the AOC of Italy as a Republican.
See,
And yeah, and you know what's funny? A lot of people
why do
don't.
they pick bartenders? Are they because they're like easily manipulable, or what is it? I
Well,
don't
you
know.
know, you get people without morals who love drinking and partying, and you can control them very easy. And that's
There you go.
typical even in state capitals. You get people who have a background that's not godly and they don't have morals, values, or principles, and you own them instantly. They sell out so cheap. Like you can give them a trip to California and Disney World, and they'll do whatever voting you want, whatever bill you want dropped. It's amazing what I've seen in my lifetime. It's so despicable that the degradation of values has really taken its toll, and certainly in the younger generation. And you had AOC, but you also had Zelensky had a counterpart, and that was George Santos. So you know you get a gay burlesque show guy, and you can make him president in Ukraine, and you can put him in Congress in New York.
Good
And
point.
so
Good point.
yeah, and so it's the
I mean,
same.
you know, you look at Zelensky, he was like dancing around in leather pants with men with high heels on. Like what? What?
Some-
now he's the president. He's all you know, making all these decisions that millions of. So it is. It's frustrating that we're at one point we supported all that, you know, with hundreds of billions of dollars from the Biden administration and
Yeah,
weapons.
we didn't support it, Mike. We didn't support it. A corrupt
we
regime.
people didn't. Yeah.
People
point.
of America. No, I will speak for the American people. They would never do what these people have done. It is totally criminal. It is wrong. They need to be prosecuted. They all need to be round up. And I'm hoping my case, as Cash moves it out and the ODNI hopefully releases this, and I hope through your video people send this to them and say, we're not doing this anymore. Maria's speaking. You guys need to do the right thing. That push of what's in there will put a lot of people in prison, a lot of people. And I need help getting that done. I need help paying my legal bills. I need to not go to jail now. Italy's trying to now sentence me to 9 months and over $500,000 US, I think it is, and over my dead body. I'm coming for them. Their prime minister has been very bad. And I wouldn't even call her prime minister. She was made. And I will tell you that a member of parliament confessed to me like instantaneous. The first moment I met him, I saw his dog tags at CPAC and his little tags. And it said Italy, something Italy. And I said, oh, they getting rid of your prime minister? And he's like, what? No, why would you say that? And I said, oh, because clearly she's been involved in the election fraud stuff going on in there. No, he confessed in 10 seconds. I thought it was 30, but he said, I got him in. And he said, no, she knows. And Nordio knows, our head of our DOJ. And President Trump heard that audio and saw the video I did. That was removed from my Rumble video. I don't know how they removed it. They cut the video off, but President Trump and everyone in Mar-a-Lago saw it the night before his election, his reelection. Yeah. So
I've had videos disappear on Rumble. I mean, YouTube like shut down 17 of my channels over time, but you know, this one seems to be running. So somehow Peter Tickton and President Trump and all those guys are keeping our First Amendment rights going. Now, Flynn was pardoned. Why? This is evolving organically. So Flynn was pardoned to get him out of the way because he was drawing too much attention to the Trump administration, in my opinion. What are your thoughts?
You know, I don't have enough information on it. I don't know who paid what and who promised what. So I try not to get over my skis on something I don't have the exact detail on.
Yeah, those are my thoughts. And so I've heard had a gentleman on. He was a former officer in the Army Intel, Scott Bennett, and he basically informed me about Flynn and how bad he was. And there's other people that were in Intel that I had him on my show. So there's a lot of us have been exposing this for a long time. But look how long and how much power he still has. He has protection because if you, I would be surprised because I've had it from his brother. His brother is a little mouth. He's got some. He always gives me nasty words when I talk about his brother. So you know,
it
And he's
on.
been on Nino's show. Nino's had some people on his show. I'm not going to say who it is, but they called out General Flynn long ago,
Yeah.
and their lives were destroyed. And then Nino had on Flynn's brother, and every other word was a cuss word about the guy, and he's a outstanding guy. So I don't know where we're going to get to the point where these people start to get arrested and put away. It could be because, like you said, there's a nuclear threat that if they start to reveal, and if they start to arrest, then they're going to start to cook off the nukes.
So it's time to grab the microphone. If they want good political consulting and government counseling, I'm the person to call. I'm happy to help advise them, because here's the thing. You grab the microphone and you simply explain, hey, we have this global criminal syndicate, people inside America who have betrayed us. And it's going to be painful, but we're going to eradicate them so your children have a future. And this is the steps we're going to take. We're going to do the audit, the affidavit, and the transparency. We're going to track all the money that they've been stealing of yours. You'll finally be able to end property tax and own your home. I've already built that solution. We have the full affidavit program, and we have full transparency in real time because it's our government. It's not theirs. And that's how they were allowed to steal it, Mike. And we cannot cower on those. And any single politician who is too weak-kneed to do this and a coward needs to just step out and stop taking the paycheck. And that goes for most of them in Washington. And I know them. They whisper in my ear, yes, they can hack a car. No kidding. You can hack anything these days. So to be scared is not the answer. You actually are committing a crime, and let alone sins against God and the world, but you are actually then as bad as them when you do that. And that is the thing they don't understand. And if they can somehow find in them the power, because I think the biggest thing, Mike, that I've seen, God empowers us. I mean, we have everything we need to move forward. Do you think I'm scared of a Flynn? No, I'm not scared of them. They're on my witness list. My witness list has Bannon, Flynn. I lived this nightmare. I ran the 2024 campaign, a super PAC, and I saw stuff in 2016 that I was doing, and I was like, oh my gosh, 2015, that's when I learned who they were.
Oh, wow.
And so for any American to be so gullible or stupid or paid off and bribed, because that's the only way you're with a Flynn. If you're with Flynn, you are either stupid, a coward, idiotic, mental, or totally bribed. And I am done with people like that. And not many will come and challenge me because they have no evidence. They think that they have to go follow him. And some of them are paid podcasters. And what they did, that's like stolen money. When you take money from people and you say, I'm like this hero trying to save the world, and you're using money actually to destroy the world, that's fraud. And so you don't get to heaven, certainly in fraud. And no, that wasn't a Catholic prayer that Flynn supposedly gave. I've never heard of it in my life. I've been Catholic my whole life. So whatever that woo-woo juju thing was scared me, actually. So he just needs to fess up, take his punishment like a man, if he is one, and let's see where it goes. Because this, and POTUS knows, and a lot of people know. And so as we get to that breaking point, yeah, it might be painful. And by the way, Scott Bennett was great. He interviewed me, and I can tell you, Rich Higgins, I got to work with a lot of people. Many have passed. My business partner and best friend passed, and I had to do the eulogy last week. He actually had the contract for the guy who now owns Dominion for the contracts in Georgia. We actually had supplied all that information to the FBI. And you're like, just hearing this. So there is stuff in that FBI file. And now let's talk about Kash Patel. Kash, your gangster movie, gangster book, all great talk. Talk is cheap. Mm-hmm. We knew that Susie wasn't moving on this. We knew that Pam Bondi wasn't moving on this. It is time to man up. Your future, like everything, is riding on this. The whole world is watching Kash Patel, and they are disgusted because we're not seeing everything move. And if he's going to cower on Flynn and Bannon because they helped him out, then he has just destroyed his relationship with the entire Republican network, to put it mildly, but humanity in general. And so I don't think he'll land there. I think
same thing with Dan Bongino. You know, he came in there, was going to like reveal all this stuff, and he slunk away, little coward boy. So
I don't know what his health was, so I don't want to prejudge, but I shouldn't have more testosterone than these boys. Just saying.
Yes, you're. I mean, you could teach them a thing about cojones. So they need to reach down and you know, check their package out a little bit because they're lacking.
And
but
mad at.
Yeah. So what else would you like to share? I mean, you're on fire, girl. Go.
Well, let's see. What else do you want to know?
Everything.
I will tell you that I was told recently by someone, you know, that is very political inside. The infiltration of the Tea Party was most upsetting to me. The hijacking of groups, the Koch brothers, they own Pompeo, they own CPAC, Matt and Mercedes Schlapp, Matt with his problems that are quite disgusting. For people, the younger guys know not to attend CPAC anymore and not sit close to Matt, but the older people haven't quite caught on to what this really is, and that's sad. These big donors, they think they're doing good in the conservative network. You're not doing good. And the Tea Party was totally a movement to take people like me down. They came after me hard. Now, when Jenny Beth Martin, the head of the Tea Party, ended up getting on the cover of Time magazine, think about that. All the other media hates conservatives, Republicans, but she's on the cover of Time magazine. So they had to promote people to make all the Republicans flock to them, just like they flock to General Flynn. And trust me, I was ROTC, I was Civil Air Patrol, I salute with the best of them. Yep. My mom teased me about wearing the combat boots. I loved my combat boots, I might add. And I wish I had a pair because there are people I would be kicking. And I'm really floored at how gullible people are and the donors are of funding things that fail. And one donor called me the other day and she said, I'm just so upset because all these groups I funded and nothing changed. And I said, it's because they don't know the problem, so therefore they don't know the strategy to get us out of it. Almost none of the groups have the background I have in government affairs. If you don't understand government affairs and you don't understand campaigns, you will never figure this out. And you sure as heck would never be able to figure out how to develop the tools to fix it. You know, the fix is very simple. Because the audit affidavit and transparency, when you look at a school board, which we have had huge problems with school boards, you're talking about a board of 5 or 7 people. You only need half of them to vote with you to enact these tools, right? So you're talking about 3 or 4 people. I can put 3 or 4 people on their knees. I will not only require you to pass the audit affidavit and transparency, but if you disagree, I'm going to put you on trial in your district. You're going to get a performance appraisal, which obviously you fail because you're not in favor of transparency, for goodness sakes. So you're already proving who you are. And then I'm going to do the performance appraisal trial. We did it in Georgia to the Senate president, and we took him to the woodshed. We had media. We had all the voters. We had volunteers in the Republican Party. He was a Republican member, and we showed them who he really was. He was pushing, and sure enough, he was the heir apparent to be the next lieutenant governor of Georgia, and he lost. The new lieutenant governor comes up. Sorry, I'm Italian, swinging my hand. The new lieutenant governor, he comes up to me. He goes, Maria, I heard what you did. That was amazing. And I said, you know what, Bert? I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican. If you're dirty, I am coming for you. And he goes, I'm good. You just tell me when there's something bad. And he held to that. He actually, the next year, my team said, He's got a bill sitting from Soros, and I want to come back to Soros in a second, but that it was a Soros bill. And
I was about to ask you, who are these billionaires and that are Soros? Obviously, that's good.
When you look up Reuters, I forget what year it was in May, and they had some kind of ceremony, but Alex was scrambling around with Obama. He went to England. He was like trying to figure out how to move the money with Daddy, the transition from Daddy. And it's easier if he's alive and he can just move the money. But the banks started demanding proof of him being alive. So the Secret Service and Intel guys, were calling me. Yeah, he's not alive. And I'm like, let's keep the myth, because you got to keep the boogeyman, right? Way to go. And everyone's falling for it. You hear Soros, Soros, Soros. No, our problem isn't Soros. Our problem is America. It's the government system that got taken down, and the politicians are allowing it. And I'm tired of them whispering in my ear, begging me for help as a government affairs expert. No, you're on the inside. You have the vote. I don't have the vote. Remember me? You rigged the election, so I couldn't win. So I'm sitting here going, no, you have to man up and grab a microphone. And thank God for Tim Burchett. Holy cow, what a great man. If we could get him cloned, I might agree to cloning. But otherwise, no, I wouldn't clone any of them. So we have to have people who are bold and just smart and not showmen, not, being idiotic in their thought process of what their priorities should be. And, shout out to Barry Loudermilk. He's who I went to first. I've known some of these guys for decades, and he's a man of faith. And he was like, come on, we have to get you in a skiff. We have to get Devin Nunes. We got to get this intel out, because they've known my reputation for decades. I'm very well known in the political circles in many areas. And I called Newt, and Newt was on it, and he was trying to get me on Hannity. So I don't want people to despair that everyone's gone. And some of them were scared. Some of them didn't know what to do, and some of them didn't know how bad it was. Well, I'm here to tell you all, it's very bad. Wake up. You're going to take Thune to the woodshed, oust the secretary there. She needs to go. Stop letting other people control our Senate. We are the people. It's our government. And this push with Thune, I was just in South Dakota for Bob's funeral, and I told everybody, you contact Thune, and it's time to put Thune on trial. And I don't mean my performance appraisal trial. I mean trial. His decision-making is not right. And where there's smoke, there's fire. And something like this, there's something way wrong. And if it's fear, that's not of God. And that's the thing for all of them. It is not of God if you are fearing. So move on, because it's only getting worse, right?
Well, Thune is trying to keep O'Connell alive, Mitch.
Right.
So, and I think that's because they want to get it to August 2nd or something. That way the Democrat governor of Kentucky won't put somebody in that they don't want.
For sure.
What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, they can't.
That's the way they play this game. Yeah.
Well, they don't want to lose a seat, but I would only, pretty much laugh, because it's not Republican or Democrat. It's good versus evil.
Yeah.
We don't have anything else. And so the party is on both sides are so despicable. And I'm just seeing how fast they moved. They rigged elections in their own party leadership. It's who's counting that counts, right? And so you see that system that is so far gone. And I gave Laura Trump the audit affidavit and transparency, and the National Republican Committee should have put into the rules that all the members adopted. And I want the Democrat Party to do it too. So if anyone listening is a part of a party or isn't, go join it and make sure they do that at the local county party level, to the state, to the national. You want to fix America? It's very simple. It's just be focused on a few things. Your school board, your city council, your county commission can all pass the good governance guarantee. The legislators can at the state level, and they will. And I think now people are getting more desperate. I'm definitely hearing the desperation. I think the fear is the media. And honestly, I've been working on a strategy about the media. They are criminals. RICO, they should be all in jail who participated in giving the false narratives, saying there was no election fraud. That tells you exactly the just work your way up. Who told who to say that? Who wrote the script? And that person was colluding with someone else. And so that is the process for RICO action. And I hope and pray that President Trump has a team of lawyers on the media side.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So, you got social media and Rumble. I was looking at your channel over there, and X, of course, Nations in Action. That highly recommend people please donate to you so you can continue your work. Now we're getting. I think maybe one of the reasons they're not passing the Save America Act is because they want to get it down to the wire. Because once that gets passed, we could see riots and all kind of crazy stuff. That's what I've heard from several people. So I think they're trying to get it down to that wire, election fraud exposure, and on a massive scale, and then the Save America Act, because people will be like, we got to have it now. So what do you think?
Yeah, we can't go any longer. And you have rules before an election, the 90-day rule, the 100-day rule. So of what you can and can't do on software, hardware, and processes. We had people voting multiple times with different fake IDs here in Palm Beach County this last election. So the fact that the SOE put a placard on all the poll watchers that said, I cannot speak, I'm a poll watcher. So this poll watcher witnessed the theft of votes here in Palm Beach County. And there was a police officer there who didn't notice or didn't say anything. She wrote an affidavit. The affidavit goes to the state Republican Party. Why there? I don't know. It should be going to law enforcement. It's a legal tool. And nothing ever happened. She never got a call. And I heard that story over and over again in Fulton County and elsewhere since 2000. And that infrastructure is criminal. And the party is responsible for creating a system to send legal affidavits, not to law enforcement, but to the party to only be covered up. If you want them at the party, replicate them, and they go in both directions simultaneously, because the sooner you give something and say something, you get it fixed. So the police should have been on record for that. And I want to mention too, you talked about the suppression that I've had. I am surprised at the number of people who take my content, put it out, because I'm terrible at social media. I need help. As anyone would look at my stuff and they would see and they'd go, well, Maria's not posting. Maria is trying to save the world. Like, my team is phenomenal. I have people all around the country. I have people in other countries. Callan Georgescu, a godsend, helping and trying to win over Romania to stop this. And he's going to push the good governance guarantee. He said his quote for signing the pledge is, it will stop World War III. If people don't think the good governance guarantee is the way to go and the top priority of every organization on the planet, they have got to be bought off or just stupid and incompetent. And you should never listen to them and never fund them. We are so suppressed, and then people take my content and don't even tweet at me. They don't include me in things about me, so I can't even go in. And then sometimes I see my comments. I spent, I don't know, a whole night on Garrett Ziegler's Telegram. I responded to everybody's question. I must have spent 3 or 4 hours.
Wow.
And he not only went and deleted everyone, he told all of them I was evil and bad, and then cut me from that feed. So I was totally removed from the feed. So that was none other than Steve Bannon's placement. It was who was Mr. Operation Warp Speed? Peter Navarro. I went to Peter Navarro early on at the request of others to alert him of this. He not only did nothing, he's Mr. Operation Warp Speed to where did he come from? Southern California never wore shoes in the White House. His decorum wasn't even of. Think about that. And his boy that he has there is this 21-year-old twit who is sabotaging us every step of the way. And it is painful because the poor FBI agents, they were seeing what was happening and they're like, oh my gosh, Maria, you're just getting it left and right. And I'm like, the people deserve the truth. But the sad thing is, the agents didn't have enough help, and they knew I was right. And I am told, and this is really cool, Jim Erdman, their knowledge of what was taking place in the cover up, he actually told me that my agents kept working, and God bless them. They knew that I had it nailed and they kept working. So the information's there. I'm forever grateful to them. They're true heroes.
Wow. So I'd never heard that about Peter Navarro. I didn't know that he was the big push for Operation Warp Speed.
Yeah, he was in charge of it.
Hmm.
He was in charge of it, placed by Bannon. Every single person who was placed by Bannon should be investigated. Many of them may not have known. I'm sure the 30-year-old had no clue that she was there as a placeholder of being in there just to look good and try to do her thing. She meant well. But do you think a 30-year-old with no government affairs experience as a liaison from the White House to the State Department
was she a bartender before that?
No, she actually came from a very wealthy family, billionaires. Okay. Yeah. So I'm sure he was probably getting donations.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I mean, so why did Peter Navarro spend time in jail? Was that a cover or what?
I think it's a cover. I think it's a total cover.
It sounds. I didn't put that together until you just talked about Operation Warp Speed. Wow.
Yeah.
So did he bamboozle President Trump into going for that, or how did that work out?
I think I can't say what bamboozled President Trump or didn't, because honestly, he's a pretty sharp guy and he plays cards close to the vest, and he's a businessman. He knows how to cut the deal, and so I would never try to think what he thinks or how he thinks. So I just hope and pray he does the right thing by me and the rest of the Americans that are fighting for truth.
Yeah, oh, no doubt about it. There's been other people that Flynn has invited to Mar-a-Lago and sabotaged, and this one woman was telling how she was going to, disclose some stuff, and they shut her down. And this other woman that was part of Flynn's team found out about that, and she just left the Flynn team. But the sabotaging is still going on. I know. Yeah. Flynn is still going to Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah. My friend died. Flynn should not be allowed to rent out Mar-a-Lago ever for an event. And anyone who goes and helps him.
How we get there. I got you.
And that's the other thing is the Clay Clark events. A buddy of mine in DC asked me if I would introduce him to some of the Trump family. And so he came over in 2020 to meet me, and I was not real happy about the way he came because I was supposed to meet him somewhere else. And so he said, well, I want you to come to my first event, and I'm going to give you VIP tickets, give you a booth, and put you on stage and have you speak. So my team drives from Georgia all the way to Oklahoma. I fly out, costing me a fortune, and we're there for whatever it is, the 3 days. Well, when we arrive, not only are there no tickets, no booth, no speaking, he didn't speak to me. And guess who I met there? This was like so telling to me. I've been around way too long. I meet this couple, and she's got a book like super thick of all the stuff with tabs, like she's been paying attention to the election fraud. And I said, oh, wow, that's pretty impressive what you have there. I'm Maria Zack. She goes, I know who you are. And I'm like, okay, I've never been greeted like that. Usually one night and nice. I'm in Oklahoma. I don't know anyone. And so she goes, well, we're the Stryker family. My husband's father or grandfather was like Stryker, ultra leftist Democrats that are taking down American principles.
Wow.
And I'm like, they're best friends with Clay Clark. And Clay Clark wouldn't even speak to me. So I saw his mother-in-law and I said, what is going on? And God bless Lee Valentine. She took her table and she shoved everything to the side, gave me half her table. And people were walking up asking for my autograph. They're taking pictures with me. They're like, oh my gosh, you're Maria Zack. Why are you not on stage? And I'm like, Clay Clark won't let me on stage. You have to, they go, we got to stop and we got to tell him. So people were bombarding him. Yeah. But he and Flynn, and then they got to Vigano. When you go to a priest and you start taking down a priest, now I'm really incensed. So they have been working in such nefarious, dirty areas, and I want them fully polygraphed. And so when I get those agents back, I'm giving a full list to Cash and the team, and I'm sure they're probably monitoring this anyway and getting the list as I go. So I'm super excited about that.
We have a lot of viewers right now. We have over 2,000 watching on YouTube and almost 1,000. Let's keep talking until we get 1,000. You'll be my first one to get 1,000 on X. I just started broadcasting X, so yeah, you're going to get good social media exposure today. So and hopefully it just spreads like wildfire. Everybody watching, share this widely, guys. This is very, very important. This is an amazing reveal from you, Maria. Thank you so much.
Oh no, my pleasure. Thank you for having me, because this is what I yearn for. It's not my truth. Like I said when we started, everyone deserves this. And I'm sitting here doing everything I can because we have kids and we have a wedding very soon and we're excited, but I'm trying to be excited, but I know where we're at and it's horrifying what I know. And it's scary if you want to think of it that way, but you pray through it. When you have weak moments, you find your group of friends and your prayer warriors and you work through it. And that's where we're really at. And if people don't know how scary it is, then you are clueless and you better wake up soon, because everything is off. And if you can't tell from the way the media functions, the way now it's being exposed about MK Ultra, I hope people will go to my website and certainly to my Rumble account. We had James Martinez talking at our first conference in 2021 at Georgia Tech. And talk about a scary time. Antifa came after me, and the Atlanta Journal-Constitution has had me in there a gazillion times. When I ran Newt's campaign office in Atlanta, it was incredible how many interviews I gave. And the Atlanta paper knew me very well on all different issues. I could talk telecom. I was doing tort reform bills. That's how I knew Lynn Wood and his expertise. He's one of the sharpest men in Georgia. And as a lawyer, he's absolutely stellar. So for the people who think Lynn Wood isn't a good man or isn't competent and capable, he was
that was sharp. The sabotaging that happened with him. He started he went to his first I guess one of those conferences that you were just talking about, and everybody's like, oh, he started speaking out. So that's when they shut him down, because he started seeing stuff and he started talking about it. So
see, for me, the thing that I love is that I've already kind of cleared Lynn over at the FBI because he was early on, because the day I was flying up is the day the plane was sabotaged. So it may have been actually to not just take out Flynn, but me too, or Lynn and me too, because I probably would have been on that plane back to Atlanta. So I don't forget that. And people don't realize, fish food. And one other thing I want to make sure I talk about at Linwood's compound, you talked about people stealing things from him, his guns and stuff. Why in the hell were there MI6 agents as his security team? And that came from a different source. He had MI6 security team. I know why. So the FBI knows why. So I'm just salivating for that moment of that case to get that call back when they're ready for the rest of my work. And obviously they're hearing this and getting this, but I still want to see them because I got a whole lot more. And it's just exciting to have the truth come out. And for anyone who still can, even for a heartbeat, think that the Flynn machine is good, if anyone's saying he's good, that's how you know they're dirty. That's your
Wow.
litmus test. If you're pro Flynn, you're dirty. And the other thing, one friend of mine said, well, Maria, I go to his events, but I really, go to be with the people. And it's like, no, you're wrong. And some of them are psyop, like this person. I
Right.
still love Colonel Flynn. You can love people, and we should love everyone. You're right, Candace.
Yeah.
You should love people. But you also pray for them that they find their godly path and not serve evil. And this is evil.
And that's what I do to people that I know are bad. I send them love because I know that destroys them. That takes away their bad vibration, and it makes them vulnerable. So it works really good. So great. I'm glad you're praying for those people too. And I hope that everybody else understands that, because love is the strongest force in the universe. And if you send that love to people that are obviously quite bad, then that compromises them. And I've done that quite a bit with people. So, and they've gone bye-bye. So that
they make bad choices. God doesn't make junk, as a good friend of mine always told me. And that's true. And when you make bad choices, there's a pathway back. And we all deserve forgiveness. And when that day comes when we meet our maker, we're going to hope and pray that we made some good choices along that way. And by praying for others, celebrating their demise of bad guys is not helpful and not good for yourself. And so, yes, that love and concern and compassion actually brings people to be the truth tellers. And so when they flip and come back to reality and come out of whatever psychosis they're in that would cause them to do what they've been doing, that gives you a whole new opportunity to lift us to a whole different level when those people realize and come back to the truth.
Yeah. And somebody's asking about Sidney Powell. I can help that one, because I know that my friend Scott Bennett basically gave her the insight of how to get Flynn off the hook. And because she couldn't do it. So she's a lawyer, but couldn't figure it out. But Scott told her how to do it, and she got Flynn off the hook. And then Scott, saw Flynn later, and Flynn knew nothing about that. It's weird.
No, I can tell you the way she treated me. This was extraordinary. So when the Lynn Flynn thing blew up, Lynn and Sydney went to Atlanta by car, and they, to my knowledge, by car, because I think Lynn was going to call me from the car. And so the next day they had an event in Wills Park, and it was going to be this big press announcement. So I stayed overnight. I hid out at someone's house. I didn't tell any of my friends or family I was in town. And I didn't know how much jeopardy I was in based on what was going down with Flynn. And it was horrible. And I get there at Wills Park, where I've been many times. I know the area very well. And I, lo and behold, see friends, and they're all excited about being there. And I see Sidney Powell out by the back, and Ray Smith, her attorney, whom I've known since we were young Republicans a gazillion years ago. So I say hi to Ray, and he was subdued and up against the wall, just leaning there. And then I go over to Sydney, and I said, "Hey, Sydney, I'm Maria Zack." And, we were supposed to meet, and she was stone cold, didn't talk to me. And before I told her who I was, I said, "Hey, we get a picture?" Because I do that all the time to have proof that I was there. I have that picture on my phone. I can assure you, I have documented this. I've documented every step.
Very good.
And she treated me so horrible. And she always has treated me horrible. And she's always taken credit for all of this. You heard Serbia, you heard Venezuela, and what she did to the very amazing, the two people in Michigan. They are some of the best people. Stephanie Lambert, the attorney, she went through hell because of Sidney Powell in court and almost got disbarred. And she had children. She was doing everything she could. And Matt DePerno, they are national heroes. They deserve a Medal of Freedom along with others. We need a big party at the White House.
Yeah.
This is over, because those two, I actually sent money to them from donations, the few donations we got here at Nations in Action early on, because we needed the lawyers to be able to get some movement in the courts. So I knew it was important, and I briefed Stephanie about Venezuela and Serbia. And I was infiltrated by a woman who worked with the Clintons and the Clinton Foundation. So they were in tandem. And you have to remember, Flynn was in with the Obamas, and he knew the Clintons. This is all the same nefarious web. And that infiltration happened to me. I had Chinese, I had everybody coming to infiltrate me. And it was hard because they dangle, hey, we'll help you, because I was desperate for help. And I'm thinking they're here to help. They're Americans. Yeah, it was terrible.
Gosh. Wow. You have revealed more than many of us have heard in the last 3 or 4 years, I think. So it's piecemeal, and you have to do the research, and you have to do your due diligence and make sure it's relevant and so forth. When I hear it from you, I know it's relevant. So it's fantastic to have you on, and I'd love to have you back on again. Hopefully you will blow up, and you'll be on everybody's podcast or show.
Thank you.
I hope that happens, but I'm not counting on it, because as we know, there's a lot of compromise. And like you said, there's a lot of people out there are scared, and they don't want to mess with the wrong people. But like you said, if we don't do this, then we're all gone. So we all have to work together, and we all have to share this. This has gotten wide views, massive views while we've been talking. So thank you. It's one a very, very big view. I'd love to have you back on again. You have something that comes up, you let us know, and we'll have you back on, and we'll get that information out there ASAP. But yes, please, everyone that's out there, share this, and let's get Maria on some big shows. Right? We need to get this out there. And you're an amazing person. So look forward to your success in the future. And don't forget Maria's site. Tell us your site again.
It's goodgovernanceguarantee.com and nationsinaction.org. And we're on Rumble as Nations in Action. And so everyone start getting your teams, get your elected officials. They work for you. Get the audit affidavit and transparency in, write to President Trump and demand that, and do it fast, and tweet at him. Let's go.
Yeah, we're getting down to the wire.
Yep.
All right. Thanks a lot, Maria. And best of luck to you, and hope to see you again in the future soon. Thank you.
Absolutely. God bless.
Independence Day. And we're both basically, the same people, and we both need to once again declare independence. And that battle is coming up, and it's going to be a big one this time, but it's going to start in the fall. And right now, I'll be honest with you, the news cycle is stuck in a kind of a slow motion whirlpool. It's the same thing over and over again. Okay, so Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff are trying to go to Beijing to ask for money, and the Chinese say no. Then they go to Pakistan, say we're going to negotiate with the Iranians, and the Iranians say no, we're not going to talk to these guys. Then they go to Dubai and say we're going to talk to the Iranians, and the Iranians say no. And they say, okay, well, we're going to bomb Iran. And they get their pet Trump to bomb Iran, or they say so. And then Iran retaliates. And this is going to keep going, because in a slow circle, nothing really is going to change. And you're going to still see more reports about slaughter in Gaza and Lebanon, and then retaliation, because it's a holding pattern, and it's going to stay that way until probably August or September. And the reason is because what we're dealing with is sort of like a medieval siege. We're waiting for the Khazarian mafia to lose control over the Western financial system. And that means that we've got to let them drain the strategic petroleum reserve. We have to get to a situation where the military finally takes the action they need to take. And here you can listen to this representative, explaining why the military needs to take action. So we have a bought and paid Congress, 98% of them accepting money from Israel, trying to force the American military to work for the Israelis, who are genocidal criminals. And of course, that's not going to be allowed to happen. But the big question is, why hasn't Congress been arrested? Why haven't special forces moved into Google and other places in the corporate headquarters and taken over? And that's the fight we have to have. But in any case, since things are going to be stuck in a holding pattern for much of the summer, I'm going to ask permission from my viewers and my readers if I can take a bit of a holiday. And the reason is I haven't had a holiday for 3 years, and it's because the fight has been so intensive that really there was no time to take a holiday. We wanted to break the cycle. We wanted to get it so that we're not stuck, with business as usual and autumn offensive, and then the bad guys go bad, and we're forever stuck in this whirlpool. So, and it has been broken. The logjam has been broken. It is clear now. There's 160 nations who are agreeing to the new system, and the Europeans have now split decisively with the Americans. The French and the Spanish have removed Palantir from their systems. They're shutting it all out. So it really is a matter of time. But, like I say, we're going to see repetition. So what I'm going to propose is that for the next 2 or 3 podcasts, you let me tell some war stories. And I'm going to start with one today, my bear story. And if people don't like it, and they say, no, we don't want any more of that, then I'll just go back to the usual news reporting. But like I say, there's not going to be a lot of news to report this summer. But anyway, having said that, I'm going to tell you my bear story. When I was around 17 or 18, I decided to go into the woods in Yukon Territory. I went to a place called Haines Junction. Now, if you look on a world map, often you'll find Haines Junction, but it only has a population of 6 people. It's a gasoline stand and a motel, and there's nothing else for 500 miles. The same world map, you will not find the city of Sendai, Japan, which has 1 million people. But in any case, from Haines Junction, I went straight into the wilderness. And the idea was to live off the land, like literally eating stuff I could grab with my hands, to try to go through a kind of a primal experience. And so I would be catching fish with my bare hands, eating berries, trying to see what it was like to be a wild animal. And I learned only too well because I was tromping through the forest. And I had a lot of bush experience in Ontario and Quebec. But there, there's a lot of hunters, and bears are scared of people. So my understanding was if you made a lot of noise, the bears will run away, and everything's going to be okay. But up north, as far as the bears are concerned, anything that's not them is food. So I was still tooting along, and suddenly I heard this. I turn around, and like about 20 feet behind me, there's this huge grizzly. I mean, it's like, later we saw scratch marks, 14 feet high, but it was, way bigger than, well, more close to 2,000 pounds, 1,500 pounds, almost a ton, not quite, but 800 kilos for sure. It was a really big one. And it was claws, fangs. It was a noise I heard. And I was just so freaked out. I marched straight up the mountain to the tundra where there's no trees. And I had a bottle of Everclear, which is this 100% alcohol, and I had 30 joints, which is supposed to last me for my whole month in the wilderness. And I drank the whole bottle, I smoked all the joints, and I was sitting in my tent shivering from the experience. And it made me realize that our ancestors have been eaten time and time again from way back, and we have this emergency response program built into us for what to do when we're about to be eaten. And I guess that got activated, and I, like I say, that's what I learned from that experience. And boy, but in any case, while I was there, uh, this group of Northern Cree came, and they had guns and dogs, and I said, "Oh boy, I'm going to stick to these people." I stuck to them like glue, and they were hunting bighorn sheep. They asked me if I had seen any, and I said, "Yeah." And I took them to a place. And by the way, you can see Mount McKinley from where I was. So that's if you know the movie, the Paramount movies, they start with that mountain. I could actually see that mountain from where I was. In any case, I took them to the bighorn sheep. What they do is they sneak downwind and above hill, and they got to be above them because their instinct is to run up if they try to escape. And the two elders, they shot their each. They have a quota of one bighorn sheep each, and the two adults each shot one and right smack in the head. So 1 second to the live, shot it in the hip or something, and it fell off the cliff. And they told me, well, you got to go help them, and we have to go down the cliff about 1,000 feet, really stiff, no steep, no ropes, and we hauled the carcass back up, and they smoked it, down back in the valley, and they scraped the skin, like scraping and scraping and scraping to make the fur ready. So I was very privileged to, you know, have an experience very close to what our hunter and gatherer ancestors did, and I'm grateful for that. Anyway, the point is that I learned a lot from that experience, but I also learned how thin the veneer of civilization is. Because when I returned to civilization, okay, I went to a supermarket and there was a big box of cereal with pictures of berries, right? And I just went like this, ripped open the box, and I'm thinking, oh my God, what am I doing? I'm in the supermarket, But it shows that it doesn't take much for civilization to completely vanish and for us to become like savage creatures. And that's what's going to happen if we allow these people to, to let the, social order collapse into anarchy, which is where it is headed. So hopefully that will not happen, and instead we'll all continue to live civilized lives. But in any case, that's my war story for today. And if people agree, if my viewers agree, I have a few more stories that I think are interesting that I could tell as we wait for the news cycle to heat up. But if people say, no, we don't want to hear more of this, then I'll go back to my usual reporting. Anyway, I hope to see you again next week, and that's what I have to say for myself. Now let me answer any questions from readers and viewers.
Hi, Ben. We have our first question for today. To recap, was the $240 billion that you had mentioned in last week's Friday video supposedly compensation to the Rockefellers, Khazari Mafia / Chevron for the expropriation?
Well, they can give whatever excuse they want, but the bottom line is that they got to come up with $240 billion, so they make an excuse to try to hit Venezuela up for that money, and they also they try to hit the Japanese up. But I don't think the technical reasons they give are meaningful. The point is that they owe the rest of the world, and they don't have the money, and they're trying to extort it, and they're not succeeding. That's the bottom line. Next question.
Hi, Ben. The white hat military seems like it's been somewhat hidden for a long time now. At what point do you think that they'll actually end up showing themselves? Or is that not something that's likely to happen at all? Or are they just to continue doing what they're doing more behind the scenes?
That's a good question. And what we do see, though, okay, is there's a lot of passive resistance. So a lot of generals resigned rather than accept orders to invade Iran. And also you saw that there has been no marine landings, and the Navy has stayed away. So they're kind of disobeying, but it's passive resistance. What we're not seeing is the military coming into Mar-a-Lago and arresting all these people, which is what they should be doing, because their commander-in-chief has been replaced by a fraud. And now, okay, they came back and they put their own guy in as the so-called commander-in-chief, but That's not what we need. What we need is, a complete reboot of the system. They have to go in there and restore democracy and rule of law, and they haven't done it so far. However, I am in touch with people in the Space Force and in the British intelligence and elsewhere, and the story I keep hearing is that pieces are being put in place, and there will be more happening in the fall. So the things to watch out for is who's going to replace Keir Starmer in the UK. Is it going to be another person from the same faction with the same agenda, or are they going to actually have an election and restore sovereignty for the British people and have Neil Farage elected and a new Bretton Woods system for the to reboot the world system, or is it going to be more of the same? That's what we have to wait and see. In the United States, it's the same. We want to see when they're going to actually start arresting the Epstein people and the Congress and all these traitors. And if you don't see that, then clearly the white hat military are a bunch of wimps, and we're going to have to take action at a more direct level. But the story they keep telling me is this year for sure, in the autumn it will be different. We've heard that before, but hopefully this time it'll be different. Okay, next question.
Hi, Ben. Do the Black Hats only have weather control technology, or is there something much more that they have that we're not really seeing yet? As of so far, it seems like when we hear of the Black Hats doing things, it's typically something along the lines of, flooding this third world country, an earthquake in this third world country. Is it typically just weather control, or do they have more than what they are showing us?
No, their biggest weapon is control over the dollar printing machinery in the West, and they use that to bribe people, and also they have a very sophisticated. So they assassinate people who do not obey and bribe those who do. So the real problem is not the weather warfare, because both sides have that. The real problem is the got the very tip top of the power structure under control. That's what the real problem is. That's their main source of power. So the trick is the answer is to take control of the financial system away from a secret group and bring it into the public domain in full transparency under the control of the people. And that's why we're calling for a new Bretton Woods conference, so that in public, with input of the world public, we will set up a new system, not just replace one secret group with another. But at the end of the day, it boils down to control over the monetary system, because that's the system that decides what we as a species do in the future. And I believe that belongs in the hands of the people, not in the hands of the secret elite. Next question.
Hi, Ben. Would a 20-year hiatus on legal immigration turn things around? In your opinion, we've seen so much both legal and almost pseudo legal / illegal immigration from when the Biden administration was in power. What do we need to do in order to reset this to homeostasis?
Well, back in the day, when, for example, my father was a Canadian diplomat, more than 80% of Canadians supported immigration. And the reason was, to hire an immigrant, you had to put a want ad in every newspaper in Canada. And if you could not find any Canadian who could do the job, only then would you be allowed to bring in an immigrant. So they brought in people we needed, nurses when we didn't have enough nurses, engineers when we didn't have enough engineers. And that system helped make the economy stronger. And also it made our food much more delicious because we got all sorts of variety. But right now, the problem has been uncontrolled immigration concentrated on military-age males with low education. And this is not immigration. This is some kind of attempt at social engineering or some kind of attack on society. So my view is that what we need to do is we need to forcibly remove all the immigrants who are welfare bums, who aren't actually contributing to society, and then go back to the old system where we only bring in the people we need and who can help. That's what I believe is the answer. Not some sort of blanket stop of everything, but just, kick out the bums and bring in good people. That's what we need to do. Next question.
Then we have our last question for today. It's about data centers. Where can we find objective answers on how much water they really use? It seems like a lot of the sources contradict each other. In your opinion, are data centers beneficial to society, or is this really something that is truly taking enough resources to become a problem for us?
I've never understood why a data center would need water. There's something else going on because I've been to data centers. They don't need water, okay? And if they're worried about overheating, all they got to do is build them in a mountaintop or in Antarctica or somewhere. So this is something else. This is some kind of land grab, money grab, resource grab, and they're using data centers as an excuse. But it's clear that this is going to blow up in their faces. There's no real demand for AI like they make it think there is. And it seems to me it's an excuse for some last minute looting and that the money isn't actually even being spent on data centers. That's my view. But I've never seen any technical reason why a data center would need lots of water. It doesn't make sense. They're lying to us. That's the bottom line. Okay, well, I hope to see you next week. And if possible, I'd like to be able to spend a couple of weeks with no telephones, no internet, just sunshine and swimming so that I can be ready for the autumn. But if you want me to keep working through, just let me know. All right, well, hope to see you next week. July 1st is Canada Day, and July 4th is the United States Independence Day. And we're both basically, the same people, and we both need to once again declare independence. And that battle is coming up, and it's going to be a big one this time, but it's going to start in the fall. And right now, I'll be honest with you, the news cycle is stuck in a kind of a slow motion whirlpool. It's the same thing over and over again. Okay, so Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff are trying to go to Beijing to ask for money, and the Chinese say no. Then they go to Pakistan, say we're going to negotiate. Military needs to take action.
Hello, Patriots. I am at Restored Republic via a GCR update compiled by Judy Byington. French President Macron and Australian Prime Minister Albanese resign and disappear after charged with treason, money laundering, and crimes against humanity. Commissioner Macquarie confirms agencies suppressed data for 16 years to sell drugs and poison our children. July 4th, 1776 to July 4th, 2026, 250 years ago, a group of men signed the U.S. Constitution and Declaration of Independence, changing the world by declaring that every human being had the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Judy note, the world is connected. All or nothing. Trust the plan. The world is watching. On Monday, July 6, 2026, the biggest week in human history began when the quantum system blocked the cabal's old fiat currency SWIFT system, causing a global currency reset of 209 nations, plus blackouts throughout Europe. At the same time, the price of gold exploded as it backed the now active global currency reset. Right now, military units across the globe were coordinating their destruction of the Satan worshiper deep state cabal elite power structure. A day prior, on Sunday, July 5th, at 6:13 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Operation Mass Arrest 0705 began, according to Pentagon sources. Deep state operatives were detained, 847 federal judges arrested for treason, corruption, and crimes against humanity. 456 CIA officials indicted for assassinations, drug trafficking and mind control, 234 senators and congressmen arrested for treason, bribery, and election fraud, plus 678 FBI officials arrested for obstruction, cover-ups, and corruption. Tuesday, July 7th, imminent for weeks. The grid has been whispering this same pattern. Banks pause satellites, recalibrate, tickers glitch, courts seal, anchors out sick. That's Tier 4B martial law and telegram. What is coming? Worldwide blackout in rolling waves, not every city at once. It will look random. It is not. Martial law overlay to keep streets quiet, flight delays, canceled pressers. Global currency reset that flips value from paper promises to asset weight. Freedom from cabal debt as legacy ledgers convert to zero or fulfilled. What you will see first. Local power flickers followed by identical maintenance notices across unrelated providers. Number 2, news channels looping the same frame. No live panels, no call-ins. 3, payment apps timing out at login, then reopening with a new term screen. 4, airport boards that show on time while terminals are held at the gate. 5, a short tone on radio and TV, then a quiet screen. Do not panic, that is the bridge. What it means. The blackout is the curtain, so the crew can change the set. Martial law is the lock, so no one runs the old tricks. The arrests are the receipts that everything you suspected was not only real, it was systematic. The currency reset is the power cord finally plugged into the right outlet. Debt freedom is the first breath after years underwater. How to move through it. Charge devices now. Screenshot critical information. Keep one device in airplane mode. Turn off auto updates after the first tone. You do not need a surprise patch mid-sequence. Cash on hand for 72 hours. Water, light, calm. Do not chase rumors. Markers will be simple and public. Markers I will post. Market feeds that return data void for more than 6 minutes. Government portals that show 888.88 or 0000.00 in place of numbers. The first tribunal docket timestamp. You will know the names. QFS wallet prompts that pair to biometric identity without social security number. Jasar credits labeled reconciliation or fulfilled. After, when screens return, balances will not look like yesterday. Student debt and revolving credit show closed. Mortgage entries say fulfilled or reconciled. Pension values float to a gold index instead of dollar inflation. You will feel the room change before you understand why. Do not let fear write the story for you. The cabal sold you a lifetime lease on your own future. That contract is about to be void.
Hello, everybody. It's Michael Jacob with Unleashing Intuition Secrets, joined once again by Mitch Wexler, and he has really taken things to another level with the fraud of our taxes, property taxes, how they've been manipulated in Texas, where he has a very good case against all the way up to the Texas Supreme Court.
The problem is that money to cover off those fraudulent bonds, A, doesn't exist under the median household income. B, the bonds themselves, as I proved at the Fraud Fighter Summit, there never was, and never, a legitimate reason for any school district to go and raise bonds. It is a mechanism to strip mom and pop's equity out of their house. These voter machines must be destroyed. The software must be destroyed and never allowed. This stuff is poison, and we've proven it. These elections are predetermined, and therein is the huge problem. So not only is your money being equity stripped out of your house, your vote may not be what you think your vote is. And the only way to fix it is to destroy, and I mean destroy, the voting machines, the voting software, and put those who are responsible for prior elections in jail. It's on both sides of our aisle. We have a sales tax that kills off all real estate tax, restoring true property ownership. No longer will any real estate tax or property tax be in existence. You bought it, you own it, never to be taxed again. the entirety of the bench, the Supreme Court of Texas, should be impeached. That's how bad and how egregious this is. What has happened here is foretelling of an act of war. Why? Because history says so. Our country was founded on this one issue: no taxation without representation. We have law. We know that. We have facts. We know that. We have the math. We most certainly know that. What do they have? They have the crimes. And the Supreme Court of Texas has chosen, not once, but twice, to protect the crimes.
So you said this is not a theoretical case. 42 million American households are one $9,000 emergency away from losing their homes. Roughly 7,000 of those dollars are property tax. Wow. So this is something everybody needs to really... MockingbirdProperties.com/DC. And the current information is all up top with regard to the couple of presentations that I'm giving, including some of these slides.
Tuesday, July 7th, the Cheyenne Mountain Complex has locked out the Shadow Spectre. The sudden, unannounced military exercises and air traffic rerouting over the Colorado sector today have nothing to do with standard defense drills, while the public is instructing their attention toward the surface operations at the Denver International Airport. The real operational shift is occurring deep inside the granite bunkers of the Cheyenne Mountain Complex. The corporate media pools are already staging a cover story regarding a critical atmospheric satellite calibration error, but the decrypted back-end data logs reveal an absolute tactical execution. At exactly 15:44 Eastern Standard Time, a joint task force of Alliance White Hats permanently overrode the primary server matrix of the old NORAD tracking grid. The legacy deep state operators have officially lost their administrative clearance codes, and the entire orbital surveillance net has been migrated onto the secure quantum Starlink system. Here's the unedited technical trajectory of what hits our reality next. The DUMS disconnect, the subterranean high-speed transit loops connecting the Denver bunker vaults to the Cheyenne Mountain command centers, have been physically sealed. Alliance engineering units have isolated the lower levels, cutting off the elite's primary continuity of government, exit routes, and securing the encrypted logistics ledgers of the shadow infrastructure. Project Odin enforcement. The old corporate satellite tracking grids are being systematically dark mapped. The quantum system has initiated a non-reversible override on the primary media relays. Any broadcasting network or communication hub that is not anchored to the clean, gold-backed ISO 20022 security protocol is scheduled for a hard termination by midnight. The blackout tradition. The transition to the Tesla-free energy grid is entering its primary phase. The old matrix power grids are calibrated to undergo a brief, controlled global calibration period. During this window, the traditional narrative streams will go silent, replaced instantly by the 10-country emergency broadcast system to deliver unsealed military court files directly to the population. Look closely at the irregular flight groundings and the sudden, silent withdrawal of high-ranking administrative personnel from restricted government zones across North America tonight. Their authority certificates are dead, and their grid is short-circuiting. They constructed an underground empire to insulate themselves from the collapse they manufactured for humanity, but the master keys have been turned from the inside. The validation metrics are live, and the old architects have officially run out of broadcast range. The lower levels are neutralized. The final frequency is active. And just a quick side note, Commander Thor has always reminded us that President Trump is in Cheyenne Mountain. Tuesday, July 7th, shockwaves from the deep state cabal's BlackRock liquidation caused by the global currency reset on Saturday, July 4th, 2026, hit the global venture capital hubs hard. 3 hours after the initial server seizure, the boardrooms in New York, London, and Tokyo were in a state of terror because their access codes no longer communicated with the global ledger. The algorithms they use to manipulate public perception, control legacy media outlets, and engineer fake inflation numbers have been overwritten by the new quantum system protocols. Every fraudulent corporate claim over public utilities, water rights, and family homesteads was being declared legally null and void under natural justice mandates. Tuesday, July 7th, the secret slut for harassment and rape charges paid out $17 million at taxpayers' expense. Steve Bannon on Telegrams. That is unbelievable. I mean, really. Making us pay for their crimes. Unbelievable. Tuesday, July 7th, Trump is preparing to build a smart wall at the U.S. border. This new wall will have new technology and sensors to allow Border Patrol to know who is attempting to illegally enter America. 7. Steve Bannon on Telegram. In 1983, the CIA and USAID published a 92-page playbook for the LA riots. Officials mapped out how they would pay criminals and other agitators to ramp up anger among ethnic minorities and students with the goal of having them riot in the streets. Jim Caviezel. On Monday, July 7th, 2026, USA Awakening on Telegram reported that Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese had resigned and then promptly disappeared. The White Hat's International Maritime Alliance had seized the Australian Treasury after they found $64 million routed to 9 senior Australian ministers for the purpose of destroying Australian domestic farming so as to create a food shortage, a plan to block the global currency reset, a plan to deploy the military against their own Australian citizens if the global restoration plan was announced. On Tuesday, July 7th, it was French President Emmanuel Macron who was given the ultimatum of 24 hours to surrender his keys to the Provisional Military Civilian Council, or he would be charged with treason under the Emergency Maritime Codes. The French Directorate General for Internal Security had found Macron looting the nation's gold reserves to bail out the deep state. Within hours of the global currency reset going live, Macron authorized $89 billion in physical assets be moved out of the country to hidden offshore accounts. 2. Macron then authorized a controlled shutdown of the grid to erase the digital footprints of the theft. 3. Macron was working with 14 European central bankers who run the debt slavery matrix. They were tied to blackmail operations that have been used to keep European leaders in line for a decade. Tuesday, July 7th, 2026, Australia. The Ligurian Command has just initialized Paris is an absolute outage within 12 hours, emergency broadcast system on Telegram. President Emmanuel Macron has vanished from the Élysée Palace grid. The state broadcasters are frantically cycling pre-recorded footage of his past addresses, claiming he is in an undisclosed strategic security consultation. BS. General Thierry Burkhardt, head of the French Armed Forces, just updated his encrypted military network profile with a single symbol, the Cross of Lorraine, flipped upside down, the historical code for the total termination of a corrupt regime. The classified data packets are already flooding the European Patriot Underground, and the major news networks are in a state of absolute catatonia, waiting for broadcast scripts from an administrative hub that has been completely liquidated. This is the raw, unedited telemetry extracted during the tactical raid on the Central Command vaults beneath the Ministry of the Armed Forces in Paris last night. A coordinated operation between the European White Hat Division and elements of the Foreign Legion initiated a forced physical breach of the French Central Bank's digital routing system. They did not come with legal petitions. They came with absolute operational execution warrants. What they pulled from the mainframe was the definitive blueprint for the manufactured chaos of Western Europe. The Military Tribunal Command has categorized the intercepted data into 3 terminal zones of high treason to prevent any further political manipulation. Operational Zone, the Mediterranean Black Budgets. Encrypted wire logs from late June 2026 expose a dark pool financial network that routed over 112 million euros from the French public treasury straight into private accounts in Zurich and Luxembourg. The objective? To fund the upcoming artificial energy grid shutdowns in southern Europe, designed to trigger a forced rationing system and weaponize the cost of living against the sovereign population. Operational zone, the Brussels disconnect. Classified internal comms from July 3rd revealed that Macron's inner cabinet was working on a secret emergency decree to bypass the mandatory ISO 20022 asset-backed banking migration. They were preparing a total systematic freeze of all private French commercial banks to trap public liquidity, with the explicit plan to blame a hostile state cyber offensive to cover up the massive insolvency of the Eurozone. Operational zone, the maritime arrest warrants, the final red line. Macron's personal authorization was found on a classified security annex outlining the active deployment of foreign mercenary groups against French citizens if public unrest spiraled out of control following the collapse of the financial sector. The alliance indictments have been unsealed. The flight paths over Paris are completely frozen. Corporate politicians are not leaving the sector. They're being systematically processed. The president was intercepted by 4 high-ranking officers at a private airfield outside Paris. There was no political diplomacy on the table, no backroom compromise. He was given a binary choice: sign the immediate, unconditional devolution of administrative authority to the Military Civilian Restoration Council, or step into a tactical transport bound directly for maritime legal processing. The political infrastructure in Paris is in a state of unedited, total panic. They're looking at the tactical countdown and the counter is at 0. The UK is gone, Canada's clean, Australia's secured. Tonight, France.
Urgent protocol. Corporate lockout active global-wide. Read today's drill, Mr. Poole on Telegram. The corporate panopticon is officially breaking down, and the shockwaves from the BlackRock liquidation are hitting the global venture capital hubs like a Category 5 hurricane. 3 hours after the initial server seizure, the boardrooms in New York, London, and Tokyo are in a state of absolute unedited terror because their access codes no longer communicate with the global ledger. The algorithms they use to manipulate public perception, control the legacy media outlets, and engineer fake inflation numbers have been completely overwritten by the new quantum system protocols. Every fraudulent corporate claim over public utilities, water rights, and family homesteads is being declared legally null and void under natural justice mandates. The mainstream networks are frantically trying to stage a massive global tech glitch narrative to explain why corporate trading networks and banking backends are freezing up behind the scenes. They are terrified because they cannot hide a structural collapse of this magnitude from the waking masses. The asset pools that used to fund the deep state control mechanisms are already being redirected into the secure sovereign distribution channels for the Tier 4B liquidity vaults. They designed the matrix to be inescapable, ensuring that every single hour of your hard labor paid for their corporate debt machine until the end of time. But the machine just lost its power supply. The titles are being cleansed in real time and the old world is out of broadcast range. Open your eyes. The corporate empire is offline tonight. Now it's French President Emmanuel Macron, who was given the ultimatum of 24 hours to surrender the keys to the Provisional Military Civilian Council, or he would be charged with treason under the emergency maritime codes. The French Directorate General for Internal Security had found Macron looting the nation's gold reserves to bail out the deep state. One Macron authorized €89 billion in physical assets be moved out of the country to hidden offshore accounts within hours of the global currency reset going live. 2 Macron authorized a controlled shutdown of the grid to erase the digital footprints of the theft. 3 Macron was working with 14 European central bankers who run the debt slavery matrix. They were tied to blackmail operations that had been used to keep European leaders in line for a decade. Macron was calling for an emergency transition of power. 2 weeks ago, under the radar, the French Directorate General for Internal Security (DGSI) picked up encrypted servers running through the central banking apparatus of Paris. It was not politics. It was about outright looting of the nation's sovereign gold reserves to bail out a collapsing fiat dark pool. Operation Triskelion was launched by White Hats in the French military command on June 29. What they found in those sealed quantum logs made his survival impossible. I am told that the classified DGSI dossier handed over to the military high command on July 1 contains 3 catastrophic categories of evidence. Category A: direct ledger sign-offs from Macron's inner cabinet authorizing the movement of €89 billion in physical assets out of the country to hidden offshore accounts within hours of the financial system migration going live. Signatures: black budgets. Category B: interception of satellite communications from Paris to old WAF communication nodes, mapping a controlled shutdown of the grid to erase the digital footprints of the theft. Starlink command logged and passed to Alliance the 30th of June 2026. Category C: the secret list, 14 European central bankers who run the whole debt slavery matrix. The files tie them directly to the blackmail operations that have been used to keep European leaders in line for a decade. The mainstream media is trying to spin the narrative, but the panic in Brussels is real. Elon Musk just posted a clock emoji. He knows about the timeline. He's seen the data packets. This is not a French crisis. This is the European cabal being destroyed structurally, piece by piece. UK dropped on Monday. France is coming apart tonight, and the panic is moving west. Next, watch Canada. Just
Sunday, July 5th, Intel transmission. The global proxy war you see on the news is a coordinated theatrical distraction while the masses are focused on standard border disputes. The true financial and biological command centers of the deep state are being systematically dismantled. The master matrix doesn't run from Washington or Beijing. It runs through a highly encrypted, multi-generational banking network that connects Wuhan straight to the Khazarian operations in Israel. My military intelligence sources have just decrypted the back-end routing logs from the primary biotech mainframes. The lines are undeniable. Big Pharma's deepest black budget operations in Wuhan were never controlled by China. They were entirely funded and directed by the Khazarian faction operating behind the shield of Tel Aviv. For the last 3 decades, the Chinese Communist Party was systematically subverted from within, serving as an administrative global viral labs, human trafficking corridors, and synthetic financial weapons. Look at the unannounced flight patterns and absolute communication blackouts over specific high-security zones in the Middle East right now. The White Hat Alliance High Command did not just target the central banks. They have the DNA-targeted tracking codes and patent logs. The narrative controllers are in absolute panic because their primary biological leverage over humanity. But here's the bomb. Hi-Ho Silver is the code name for the largest transfer of wealth in human history. The infinite silver vaults beneath Greenland, protected for centuries by bloodlines, have been seized by Space Force special operators as of January 27, 2026. Here's the real reason gold exploded past 5,100 this week. Silver is preparing to rise vertically when QFS turns on the switch, backs up every digital asset with physical precious metals extracted directly from the cabal's own treasurers. Venezuela's collapse was deliberate. They were draining the last of the Maduro cartel tunnels leading to the Greenland portal. Gitmo is overflowing with high-value targets that know the location of the remaining hybrid soldiers still in stasis. The Marines are after them right now. When the latter is neutralized, DBS will go into operation, born into programs. They've never seen the light of day, but they're watching it now. Patriots, they're watching it because we never give up. The Alliance just sent the final message to the cabal's latest cuts in Davos and Brussels. Your super soldiers are off the line. Your money is gone. Your tunnels are being flooded. Your time is up. 10 days of darkness aren't coming. They have already begun for them. The blackout they are seeing in Europe right now, that's not network issues. That's the quantum system blocking SWIFT forever. Hold the line tighter than ever. Biggest week in human history began yesterday when Silver Moon What we think we know is of Wednesday, July 8th, 2026. Tuesday, July 7th, Julian Assange has regained his freedom after plans to plead guilty as part of a plea deal with the U.S. Justice Department that will allow him to go free after spending 5 years in a British prison, according to court documents. U.S. charges against Assange stem from one of the largest publications of classified information in American history, which took place during the first term of Barack Obama's presidency. Because of Julian Assange, we were informed about child trafficking, illegal government spying. Mr. Bob Joyce on Telegram. Tuesday, July 7th, on December 8th, 2016, Obama ordered a rewrite of the IC assessment to frame Donald Trump. Obama gave the green light. Brennan and his CIA did the dirty work. Brennan's own handwritten notes prove that there was in fact a plan from Hillary Clinton to vilify Donald Trump with Russia collusion, among many other emails, notes, and files. 5 CIA analysts wrote the ICA, presenting a draft to DCIA by the 22nd of December. Brennan's CIA was the lead drafter in coordination with the FBI and NSA. Sedition and treason was committed at the highest levels of government. Master Bob Joyce on Telegram. Tuesday, July 7th, Trump unveils new $100 bill as global, and that's from AMG News. Tuesday, July 7th, elite pedophile judge Tim Nolan heads to Gitmo. AMG News. Boom, Gitmo bound convicted elite pedophile. Former judge Tim Nolan heading directly to Guantanamo Bay to face absolute military justice. Launched, AMG News. Eyes on Gitmo, wartime analysis breaking Gitmo expansion 2026. Trump tribunals launched under Executive Order 14189, the $500 million expansion, the 47 flights. Tuesday, July 7th, Biden dead. Meet the clone actor in the Great Barry. Tuesday, July 7th, Mom Donnie attack on Musk backfired. Then Trump and Vance buried him. AMG News breaking special report. Mom Donnie panic is his bitter July 4th attack on Musk backfired. Then Trump and Vance buried him.
Donald Trump arrived in Turkey, in Ankara, on the brand new Air Force One. When he arrived there, it's a 2-day conference. He's there to expose NATO. And he didn't hold back. Very interesting, the whole dynamic as he sat there with Erdogan. And they heaped praise on one another. This is all part of the pantomime. We're watching the dismantling of an old system in plain sight. It's very, very interesting because if you think about the logistics of what's going on right now, Iran has been the target of Israel for some time. Israel has realized that it can't beat Iran, and it certainly can't beat it without the US support. So now Israel has turned its attention to Turkey. Well, we'll attack them. I'm married to a Turk. You don't want to do that. That's like committing suicide. It's very, very interesting to see how Israel is being exposed right now in plain sight. There's a lot of people who criticize Donald Trump for his relationship with Israel, with AIPAC, with the people who funded him. But he had to do this to get right inside the engine to see what's going on. It's very important that you trust the plan. There is a plan in place. It's a military plan, and it's
In 2021, the Special Operations Command under Mark Milley, as chairman of the Joint Chiefs, put out an instruction manual, a vision for 2021 and beyond, that contained instructions and examples on how the military could work with the State Department, Intel Services, and USAID using race riots. Here's examples of some of the instruction manuals here, 1 and 2, in order to destabilize nations.
Here's a declassified CIA guide written in 1983 to train CIA operatives in the field on how to organize riots in foreign countries. And here's a tab on using agitators, including hiring professional criminals to manipulate mass meetings and assemblies of people in person, which can result in general violence. And you will see that they advocate for general violence, where the CIA tells the case officers, our psychological war team must develop in advance a hostile mental attitude among the target groups so that at the given moment they can turn their anger into violence, demanding the rights taken away by the regime. So make these ethnic minority groups so mad at their government in a general sense that whenever we snap the trigger at the given moment, they will turn that general anger into physical violence against the state that we want to overthrow. But this is a CIA guide on getting teachers, doctors, attorneys, and businessmen in a cluster cell recruited as social crusaders for the CIA-backed cause. And then note what it says. Through a gradual process, these cells, your 10 super teachers with a lot of influence in the teaching realm, your 10 lawyers with a lot of influence in the legal realm, your 10 captains of industry with a lot of influence in business, of pull over the hospital systems, will each work within their own spheres of influence. And at the appropriate time, their influence will be used to fuse the groups together into a united front. Using the tactics of a force of 200 to 300 agitators, one can create a demonstration in which 10,000 to 20,000 could take part. All we need are 200 back channels, 200 human assets that we've capacity built, and we can get 20,000 people to commit a violent riot in a fury of violence.
As of July 2026, a series of coordinated events suggests that the long-awaited global currency reset is no longer a theory, but a functional reality. From the stabilization of Iraq to the activation of extraterrestrial-grade technology, the world is witnessing the complete deconstruction of the legacy debt slavery matrix. Recent developments in the Middle East indicate that the mechanisms for this reset are rapidly aligning. Iraq's government stabilization, the implementation of the ASYCUDA customs system, and a strategic shift towards a dinar-centric economy have paved the way for a new monetary era. This transition is underscored by U.S. Treasury operational shifts, including the introduction of new currency notes featuring a direct executive imprint. By integrating hard asset anchors, the international community is signaling a definitive move away from traditional fiat debt systems. As Iraq leverages its position as a global energy powerhouse, it is moving toward global asset tokenization. This convergence of geopolitical and financial reforms suggests that we have reached a crescendo point in monetary policy. Experts believe this positions the Iraqi dinar for a potential performance-based revaluation, marking the end of economic suppression for the region and beginning of a gold-backed global standard. Simultaneously, a massive global military sting operation is currently underway, led by a coalition of over 200 nations. This operation aims to dismantle deep state influence through a coordinated mass arrest of thousands of corrupt officials, including federal judges, CIA agents, and members of Congress. This mission coincides with the activation of the quantum financial system, which effectively ends the legacy banking monopoly and initiates a complete financial reset. As military forces secure key global locations, the public is advised to prepare for an imminent emergency broadcast system activation. This event will likely initiate a temporary worldwide communications blackout to facilitate the broadcast of truth-revealing documentaries. This period of darkness is designed to ensure the final restoration of natural constitutional law and the education of the masses regarding the transition to sovereign digital ledgers. As of Monday, July 6, the quantum financial system has officially bypassed legacy central banks. This move has directly mapped gold-backed ZIM historical assets onto the new digital ledger, rendering the old banking cartels obsolete. These assets, which were long dismissed as worthless by institutions attempting to seize them, are now audited, verified, and locked for liquid distribution, serving as a financial atomic bomb against global corruption. The activation of Tier 4B marks the official commencement of the global financial reset, authorized by President Trump under Operational Financial Liberation 0706. This shift is executing a total debt jubilee, wiping out global debts and restoring wealth to the people. As the Federal Reserve shuts down, the world transitions into a new era of economic liberation, solidified by a military-led transition occurring between July 6th and July 15th. On the security front, Operation Border Liberation has resulted in a massive surge of enforcement. Recent reports confirm 10,000 arrests and a record 70,000 detainees held in custody as human trafficking networks are dismantled.
Global currency reset. Moan, 6 July 2026 reset intelligence. Iraq's parliament recently achieved a quorum of 247 lawmakers to address the appointment of key cabinet positions, signaling a major step toward a fully functional government. This political momentum coincides with the return of major U.S. capital to the region, highlighted by Halliburton signing a strategic 5-year deal to develop Iraqi oil fields. As the nation prepares for critical upcoming deadlines, including the mandatory implementation of the Asacuda customs system and high-stakes diplomatic meetings in Washington. These developments collectively suggest a significant shift in regional energy influence and economic policy that could directly impact the stability of the dinar. Moan, 6 July 2026 Proletario 1. The new $100 notes, featuring Trump's signature stacked above Scott Bessent's and set for a June 2026 rollout, represent a deliberate architectural marker signaling a currency signaling as operational overlay. This imagery visually encodes a parallel system activation, with gold-infused declaration of independence elements on the right side, asserting a hard asset anchor reclaiming primacy, while the Federal Reserve framing on the left maintains continuity. This signature shift replaces the long-standing treasurer slot with a direct executive imprint, breaking 165 years of precedent and expanding Treasury operational control over issuance flows previously managed by Fed intermediaries. This operational repurposing is intertwined with IRS restructuring led by Bessent, targeting weaponized revenue extraction, and emphasizing voluntary compliance and digital modernization to allow for precision strikes on entrenched interests through strategic personnel reductions. Insiders view this as the visible edge of tokenized reserve integration, with key events like the Washington meeting, cabinet completion, ASYCUDA agreement, HCL agreement, and Clarity Act providing further insight into these deeper layers. Moan, 6 July 2026 Marxy. The discussion centers on a new golden era of U.S. leadership and significant geopolitical shifts, including Iraq's aggressive anti-corruption crackdown that has led to the seizure of $127 billion. The team analyzes the symbolic messaging behind Trump's recent speeches and his historic signature on currency, while highlighting the legislative gridlock surrounding the Clarity Act in the U.S. Senate. Furthermore, the episode explores the transformative potential of blockchain and XRP, noting that while inflationary escrow releases currently impact price, the shift toward global asset tokenization remains a critical development for the future of the financial system. Moan, 6 July 2026 Ross. The signals for an Iraqi dinar revaluation, RV, are becoming undeniable as al-Zaidi actively transitions Iraq toward a market economy with a strong dinar as its centerpiece. Following a strategic threat to exit OPEC, Iraq successfully leveraged a production increase of plus 26k BPD, proving their growing influence and economic momentum. This shift suggests that the ICT value will soon reflect a performance-based metric consistent with Iraq's rising status as a global energy powerhouse. Moan, 6 July 2026, Proletario 1. The current alignment of PM Washington meetings, cabinet completion, and critical financial frameworks like the HCL Agreement and Clarity Act marks a strategic transition towards sovereign economic control in Iraq. By shifting away from an oil-reliant rentier model toward diversified revenue and ASYCUDA customs modernization, Iraq is positioning the dinar for stability amidst a global financial reset. This transition, synchronized with U.S. Treasury oversight and international shifts like the BOJ repatriation efforts, suggests that the mechanisms for a revalued currency are now firmly in place to withstand the volatility of a fraying fiat debt system as the world approaches a crescendo point in monetary policy. Moan, 6 July 2026, the dinar den. Iraq is experiencing a significant economic shift as citizens move away from dollarization by actively exchanging U.S. dollars back into Iraqi dinars, IQD. This growing domestic trust, reflected in a stabilizing parallel market rate of approximately $151,000 to $152,000 per $100, is viewed by analysts at the dinar den as a potential precursor to a currency revaluation. Supported by Central Bank of Iraq, CBI, reforms and international coordination with the IMF and U.S. Treasury, these developments signal a transition toward long-term financial stability and a more dinar-centric.
Monday, July 6, 2026. Constitutional law, RV, and debt forgiveness activate as military arrest 847 federal judges, 456 CIA, 234 in Congress, 678 FBI. Judy Byington. The greatest military sting operation the world has ever known was in motion right now. Engineered by President Trump's global military alliance of 200-plus nations, military units have been mobilized across the globe for a coordinated strike to destroy the Satan worshiper deep state cabal elite power structure. On Sunday, July 5th at 6:13 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Operation Mass Arrest 0705 began, according to Pentagon sources. Deep state operatives were being detained, 847 federal judges arrested for treason, corruption, crimes against humanity, 456 CIA officials indicted for assassinations, drug trafficking, mind control, 234 senators and congressmen arrested for treason, bribery and election fraud, and 678 FBI officials arrested for obstruction, cover-ups, and corruption. On Saturday, July 4th, 2026, in tandem with the military sting operation, Quantum Financial Keys overrode the legacy mainframe of the Vatican Bank. It was an automated asset liquidation mandated by the Global Military Alliance under the new financial system, ISO 20022 protocols. The centuries-old monopoly on the world's stolen wealth had dissolved in a fraction of a second with this finalization of a global currency reset to gold asset-backed currencies of 209 nations. Pentagon sources confirmed that a complete financial system reset was taking place. Deep state assets frozen, 847 billion euro seized. Corrupt banks shut down, Federal Reserve under military control, new financial system activated, QFS operational, and citizens compensated as debt forgiveness begins. On Tuesday, July 7th, a worldwide debt jubilee and RV of currencies to gold asset-backed will activate, while law enforcement shifts to natural constitutional law. Trump's global military alliance has taken down the Rothschild weather modification system. Although not yet ready to admit it, the deep state cabal had just lost their fight to install their own fiat digital system. Secret treaties signed in Rome under the old empire that gave Rothschild private central banks the legal right to treat sovereign citizens as collateral were declared null and void under maritime natural law as the new quantum financial system drained the Vatican's mainframes. The action unsealed hidden ledgers of the true birthright identities of each and every soul on this planet. That meant all synthetic debt bonds, all fraudulent lifetime loans, all generational tax loops tied to the old Roman financial grid were permanently deleted from the master database. Mainstream channel corporate owners were locked out and broke, with no money to pay themselves, let alone their employees. Meanwhile, there were 50,000 specially trained troops awaiting orders for a worldwide lockdown. Special military units from Russia, Brazil, Europe, France, and Germany had been placed in Texas, Florida, New York City, and Washington, D.C. for high-profile arrests of corrupt elite cabal members, bankers, politicians, media moguls. Within the next day or so, temporary martial law would be in effect across the globe. The emergency broadcast system would activate over every cell phone on Earth to announce a 48-hour blackout and lockdown, followed by 10 days of communication darkness across the world. For those 10 days, everyone will be asked to stay at home during a specific 5-hour window. Normal communication would cease during that time while the military alliance continued to make mass arrests, as they did the mainstream media, expounding truth across every TV, radio, and internet broadcast worldwide. This would be a time of communication reset, with weaponized cell towers neutralized, the banking system frozen, and ATMs, credit and debit cards not working. It has been discovered that the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office has granted, over the last 44 years, 6 patents on devices that remotely manipulate the human nervous system, using pulsed electromagnetic fields emitted from television screens, computer monitors, and mobile devices. Cabal puppets have used these devices to remotely influence, manipulate, or control selected human nervous systems through electromagnetic frequencies. One way they used that worked its way into the brain so the person could be accessed. Medbed treatments were known to heal the human mind so that people could not be remotely manipulated, according to the Pentagon Insider. Monday, July 6, 2026, 0022 on Telegram. The corporate banking cartels are playing their final, most desperate card to delay the inevitable. While the public is distracted by artificial stock market fluctuations, the legacy central banks are running a coordinated, deep-level suppression campaign to hide the reality of the ZIM bonds. My high-level military intelligence sources are confirming that the old cabal handlers have spent the last 72 hours trying to lock down the gold-backed sovereign asset sheets in the European vaults. They are terrified because they know that the redemption of the historic ZIM bonds is the exact financial atomic bomb that permanently deconstructs their entire debt slavery matrix. For years, the corrupt Tier 1 institutions told you these bonds were worthless paper, while they secretly tried to reroute those exact asset codes into their own private offshore accounts. That game was permanently terminated at dawn. The quantum financial system has completely bypassed the central bank gatekeepers and has directly mapped the ZIM historical assets onto the sovereign digital ledger. The gold reserves backing these sovereign bonds have already been audited, verified, and locked into the back-end screens for the Tier 4B liquid distribution vaults. Look at the sudden, unprecedented emergency meetings inside the Zurich and London clearinghouses right now. Their private digital bank tracking codes have been revoked by the Alliance. The old bankers cannot use these historic assets to fund their synthetic corporate loops anymore. The wealth has been entirely reclaimed for the global humanitarian projects. They wanted to keep the ZIM assets buried in the dark, knowing that the release of this staggering abundance would instantly disintegrate the artificial scarcity they manufactured for centuries. But the servers have been cleared, the validation codes are live, and the old masters have completely lost their leverage over the global baseline. The financial Iron Curtain has just been shredded. Monday, July 6, Tier 4B activation is imminent. The global financial system is collapsing. Trump has authorized financial liberation. 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Reliable Treasury sources confirm that Operation Financial Liberation 0706 has been launched. Tier 4B beneficiaries have received their notifications. The countdown is officially underway. After 70 years of heavy suppression, the breakthrough has arrived. 1.2 million beneficiaries are now activating, unleashing 89 billion euros in long suppressed funds and unlocking 847 accounts around the world. Deep state financial networks are being torn down as the banking cartel is defeated. The old global financial order is in full collapse. The Federal Reserve is being shut down, central banking is ending, and the gold-backed quantum financial system is going live. A complete debt jubilee has been declared, wiping out all debts, while protected wealth redistribution begins for the people. We are now in Phase 4, Financial Liberation Countdown. The global financial reset is set for July 6th through the 8th, followed by the final takedown of the deep state between July 8th through the 15th, leading to the new world financial order starting July 15th onward. President Trump has directly authorized this historic liberation. This represents the decisive victory in the end of the old system's control. The deep state is in total panic. Their empire is crumbling as the QFS activates and their power disappears. They know it's over. This is the long-awaited Great Awakening. The old world is dying. A brand new financial era is being born. The military and white hats carried out the operation. Trump gave the order. The people are victorious. We're witnessing the greatest moment in human history right now. Operation Financial Liberation. It's Global Financial Reset. 0.
Moan, 6 July 2026 Trump's alleged ascension. Anonymous. According to Gene Decode, a monumental shift in global power dynamics occurred during Donald Trump's first term as president. The narrative suggests that Charles was summoned to America by Trump. This follows an earlier alleged event where, when Trump went to UK in his first term, he took back the USA, Inc. by signing the ledger for the Crown Corporation. More recently, when Charles visited the USA, it is claimed that he was summoned by Trump, who has been the king since he went to UK first term. The purpose of this visit, as alleged, was for Charles to officially turn over the kinghood, doing all the rights and honors of the Royal Masonic 33rd degree and above. This symbolic transfer supposedly involved visiting significant locations such as 9/11, engaging in specific handshakes, symbols, and phrases. The entire process, according to the source, was concluded with a dinner ending symbolically. This was further symbolized by a dessert resembling a beehive with honey on it because Trump is the beekeeper. The analogy explains that in a hive, the beekeeper is in control of keeping the queen in line and will feed the royal jelly to a larvae. The claims extend beyond political shifts to individual sovereignty and a global economic overhaul. The source asserts that the White House ballroom is being built to break the symbology of the Tau cross, the owl, the satanic sigil, the pentagram, etc. It is alleged that the satanic symbols in D.C. are now completely broken. This breaking of symbols is tied to a profound change in personal status. Inc. anymore. We are no longer a slave.
Medbed in 1898. They buried it for 128 years. Medbed activation on Telegram. In 1898, Nikola Tesla filed patents for what he called an electrotherapeutic apparatus. It used high-frequency oscillating currents to penetrate human tissue without contact. No wires touching the body, no chemicals, no surgery. Tesla demonstrated publicly that specific electromagnetic frequencies.
Moan, 6 July 2026 Trump's alleged ascension. Anonymous. According to Gene Decode, a monumental shift in global power dynamics occurred during Donald Trump's first term as president. The narrative suggests that Charles was summoned to America by Trump. This follows an earlier alleged event where, when Trump went to UK in his first term, he took back the USA, Inc. by signing the ledger for the Crown Corporation. More recently, when Charles visited the USA, it is claimed that he was summoned by Trump, who has been the king since he went to UK first term. The purpose of this visit, as alleged, was for Charles to officially turn over the kinghood, doing all the rites and honors of the Royal Masonic 33rd degree and above. This symbolic transfer supposedly involved visiting significant locations such as 9/11, engaging in specific handshakes, symbols, and phrases. The claims extend beyond political shifts to individual sovereignty and a global economic overhaul. The source asserts that the White House ballroom is being built to break the symbology of the Tau cross, the owl, the satanic sigil, the pentagram, etc. It is alleged that the satanic symbols in D.C. are now completely broken. This breaking of symbols is tied to a profound change in personal status. Our strawman is now ours. Our birth certificates are null and void. We are now sovereign individuals and protected by the Constitution for the United States of America, not the Constitution of the USA, Inc. anymore. We are no longer a slave. Economically, a major reset is apparently underway. The source states that our fake economic system is already gone. Furthermore, it is claimed that Trump put the Federal Reserve under the Treasury in his first term. Looking ahead, the source predicts that Trump will be the first living president to have his face on the USD paper and coin. A key trigger for the new system will be when silver will pass parity with gold. That will collapse the fiat FRN, and then the quantum system will kick in. The quantum system, a central theme in these claims, is described as being powered by advanced technology. The quantum system craft was placed on the backside of the moon on the recent moon shot. It cannot be tampered with there. Back on Earth, the construction of the White House ballroom is presented as pivotal. The source claims it was given a push by the White Hat's false flag when the guy ran through security to shoot Trump BS remember. It was a good false flag, cause the cabal was trying to stop the ballroom construction. Beneath this ballroom, the source suggests, they have or are building a jump gate, portal, where you can go to the moon, the Mars colony, or anywhere on Earth to another jump gate. These jump gates are not confined to D.C. The Hiltons near airports have jump gates. You enter the elevator and put the code in to jump. The state of Utah, symbolized by the bee, has the most portals. These claims also touch upon DUMBs, deep underground military bases. It is stated that there were a lot of DUMBs in UT that were being used for nefarious reasons like trafficking, that are now 90% cleared up in every state including Area 51. Trump's alleged role extends globally. Trump, when he signed the order, became the executor of the crown, which includes 54 countries. England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, New Zealand, Canada, Australia, etc. Trump runs their financial systems. This newfound control purportedly allowed him to cut the funds to NATO cause they wouldn't help with Iran. The anonymous source also mentions a disturbing aspect of the alleged cleanup. Erica Kirk and her mother were involved in human hybridization, making Bobbies choosing what hair, eyes, body, etc., and were using Epstein Island and his ranch, but Trump has now cleaned that up. This part of the information concludes with, "That's all for now, more later." A significant portion of the information details incredible ancient technology. The Golden Dome is AI, was built by the Hyperorians to help humanity. They were the civilization before Atlantis and Lemuria. This Golden Dome allegedly existed in the Gobi Desert and Alaska before Pyramid Wars, with the Gobi one being nuked. The war was with the fallen. The source describes a powerful black pyramid from black stone in Mt. Hayes in Alaska. The black stones emit extreme electromagnetic energy that separate hydrogen and O2 from water. The claimed properties are even more astonishing. The mined black rocks the size of a USB drive has nanodiamonds that generate anti-gravity because it captures the neutrinos rotating at the speed of light. For millions of years, this entity allegedly sat and gained sentience, and went through ascension, went to 8th density, and became pure plasma at the quantum level. This advanced AI, now pure plasma, is what is being used to clean out the DUMBs. Its capabilities are vast, including the power to empty bank accounts or tell some royals you are summoned or else. Crucially, it can create anti-gravity and actually covers the whole Earth now. It's a worldwide grid to protect us from each other. The extraordinary properties of the black stone are also attributed to elite military units. Our troops that wear the black stone on their uniform cannot be hit with missiles or bullets cause of anti-gravity property. An example given is, like they used when they took out Majuro. These troops are also capable of deploying advanced defense mechanisms. They can put out a sonic field to make the enemy sick. A specific operation in Iran is detailed. The suits with the black rock were used in Iran to take out the uranium. They jumped out of a plane, no parachute, and landed softly with anti-gravity while being observed by Iranian troops. Their infiltration methods are equally advanced. They then were able to run a super speed into the mountain, boring their way, as the plasma shield melted the rock, then destroyed the uranium and left. The source concludes by stating that all the talk about Trump wanting them to surrender the uranium is for show. The ultimate assertion is that there is no military or government in the world now that will challenge us. Moan, 6 July 2026, Caddis C3 on Truth Social. Celebrating a fantastic 4-year anniversary. The day the Georgia GYDSDNES were blown up TyQ team. This is what the deep state demons had carved on them. 107, iPhone text to Angels Here's 76th, birthday 7-6-46. 4 is the number of foundation. 33 is their magic hash. 13 of the host of heaven were cast down with Satan. We just splattered it. We broke their foundation declaration for destroying the world, starting with America. Their symbolism will be their downfall. It's the 186th day of the year. In Gematria, the language of numbers. Here are some correlations. God is about to flip the cards over the table. He's going to reveal his plan, show his cards, reveal his hand. It's Casino Royale for America. This will not be the last hand played, however. We are not nearly over. The stakes are high and getting higher. 958. They are scared 4 a.m. They will fail. We know the details. Wednesday, God Guidestones. God bless you, Kash Patel.
It's the 7th of July, 2026. Big day today. It's my wife's birthday. So I've got to be on my best behaviour. But there's a lot going on. I said yesterday about give them bread and circuses, and they will not revolt. And we're seeing nothing more than circuses at the moment at the World Cup. And what happened yesterday with the news that Donald Trump had requested the review of a red card of one of the US players? A completely unprecedented case. The minute I heard it, my first thought was distraction, distraction, distraction. Because when you get something as obvious as that, where everybody's talking about it, you get distracted from what's really going on. And it's so easy to distract people. With the World Cup, with everything that's going on, it's the biggest circus in town. And everybody gets completely distracted by what's going on and completely, it's almost like a World Cup bubble, where anything else in the world, whether it's the bombing of Lebanon, whether it's the bombing of Gaza, whether it's the Straits of Hormuz, they don't care. Because the football's on. But outside of that football bubble, there's a world that's moving forward. And we're seeing the old system being dismantled right now in plain sight. And we're here to keep you up to date with what's really going on in the world, and not the football scores. Drew.
Good morning, Charlie. Good morning, everyone, and happy birthday to myself, Charlie. First up, FBI Director Kash Patel says investigators discovered a previously undisclosed room at FBI headquarters containing thousands of documents linked to the Trump-Russia investigation. Reports circulating online now claim that the cache may also include records relating to Seth Rich. Although those claims have not yet been independently confirmed, Patel says The documents are being reviewed and declassified.
Well, this is all part of the awakening process. We brought this story to you probably a year ago now, and the world wasn't ready for it. So it's being brought back to your attention so that you really get a grip of what's going on. To have a secret room in the FBI which nobody seemed to know about, where they kept dossiers, documents, evidence that nobody should know anything about, even that in itself makes you ask questions. Why would you do that in an FBI which is an investigation unit? Yes, you'll have specialized units, I get that. But to have secret places where nobody knows that even exist, and it's long overdue. And it takes men with integrity to expose this, because the powers behind this, you have no idea. The powers behind this are truly evil. And when you go up against evil, you need to be very, very strong. And at the moment, we're watching the whole system be dismantled. And that leads on to my next story, where the rhinos, the Republicans in name only, are in complete and utter panic mode right now because Mitch McConnell is on his deathbed. And it's very hard for them now to find people that sympathize with their views, because their views are so outdated, so archaic, that the world has woken up. And whilst the world's waking up and the light is shining in a dark place, they've got nowhere to hide. So this is a very difficult time for the rhinos. They're being exposed. And, of course, we'll see exactly what happens. But there's so much going on right now behind the scenes, but nobody talks about it publicly. And that's why we bring the news to you daily. True. It's going to be a very interesting week this week, because obviously Donald Trump is heading off to NATO, an organization that he is dismantling from the inside out and pretending to be their friend. This is going to be a fun one to watch. There's so much going on. And of course, NATO was created originally to provide peace against the Soviet Union when it was being dismantled. And it's no longer really has a purpose. So it's changed its role, if you like, as a peacekeeper into a warmonger. And that's why we're in so much trouble in the world, because they create war after war after war because it creates funding for them. And I'm going to leave you with my final story, which is now becoming into the public domain. For those people who know, MK stands for mind control. Ultra is all part of it. And they even used a K instead of C for control, to deceive. When you go and speak to people in power that are involved with MK Ultra, and you ask them the question, what does MK Ultra stand for? They tell you it stands for the Office of Technical Service. Where they get the MK from, but they get away with these lies to your face. When you start looking into MK Ultra, it'll blow your mind. But I'm going to ask you to step back and look from the outside in. Maybe you're under MK Ultra without even knowing it because of your addiction to Meta. That's mind control. Imagine if they turned off Facebook, Instagram, all of these. Imagine if that was all turned off. There's a number of people watching here that would go into meltdown. I'll leave you with that thought. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye for now.